Part 228. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2277. Me too. I used to know a female biological soldier from another army. She has always been nice to me. Now that she knows that I am from Jia Yan's army, she came to ask me about Jia Yan's army and my income. She even said, "Are you willing to go on a date with me?" Ha 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 ha. It's great. I feel that joining Jia Yan's team has changed our lives. More than just a change in status, I even feel that if we can understand the yin and yang Tao, we may even improve our own strength. Unfortunately, Mr. Jia Yan said that the yin and yang Tao is difficult to pass on to others. No. Do you know a secret? It is said that Mr. Jia Yan is not willing to teach people casually. This yin and yang Dao has long been very mature. He even taught yin and yang Dao to people far away from our plane terrain. A disciple? Ah! How could? I don't know whether this is true or not, but someone has spread rumors on the internet. I don't know if that family exists. If I existed, I believe that family would definitely be questioned. But Mr. Jia Yan, I'm still here, so I guess they won't be embarrassed, but I don't know which guy is so lucky to be able to learn the complete Onmyoji. Yeah, I'm so envious. Don't misunderstand the soldiers in Jia Yan's army. They are just a group of soldiers, just like the characters in the game. But in fact, each of these creatures is a flesh and blood existence. When Jia Yan is not managing them, they can still chat, communicate, and contact with the outside world, and even people who may leak the secrets of Jia Yan's army. The good thing is that even the middle-level people in Jia Yan's army don't know many of Jia Yan's plans, so even if there are enemy spies at the lower levels, they can't do much. But Jia Yan was still very quick, and heard from the junior Zinc adjutant about their rumor about a family from afar. He immediately realized that some people already knew that his yin and yang Dao had been passed on to the Xiao family. Of course, the key is the little milkfish creature. I don't know what's going on with this little guy now. After Jia Yan thought about it, at a moment when he was not in a battle situation, he sent an email. The recipient was the parents of Xiao's family. It didn't take long for the email to be answered. "Thank you, Master, for remembering our family. Xiao has been diligent recently and is still working hard to learn your skills. Recently, some people did come to our house to ask about you, but we all used excuses and reasons. After sending them away, it can be seen that they have no intention of using force, so don't worry, Master." After Jia Yan got the email, he immediately felt relieved, replied to the email, said some words of comfort to them, and said that he might go back after a while, and then cut off contact. The communication methods in this land of masters are not subject to wartime controls. Even I can contact the outside world casually. Either there is no such tradition, or it is not that situation. It must be later. Bye. Jia Yan still has some grudges about being able to communicate with the outside world. After all, he feels that when the war started, there should not be such a civilian network still functioning. Although he has also been facilitated, there is a problem, but if some soldiers are really spies for the enemy, the harm to the army will definitely be greater. That's right, the current situation is not one where the controller's power is in danger. Doing this also shows that the controller's power is still at ease, and each of our troops has its own network control. If you want to be unable to access the internet, you can cut off the internet. Every time we start a war, we will turn off the internet. I didn't think it was necessary before, but now that I think about it, I feel that the adjutant's suggestion is still very necessary. After Jia Yan figured this out, he didn't care about Xiao's family. Anyway, he could contact them via the internet anytime and anywhere, and they would also send emails if there was any situation. In fact, Jia Yan doesn't mean that he can't let his yin and yang Tao spread at all, but the problem is that he has hidden this army. If there are people in the rear who have learned yin and yang Tao, wouldn't it be a bit embarrassing? What's more, Xiao's yin and yang Dao, if you really want to learn it, it's just a little introduction. It won't help you to truly master the yin and yang Dao. It may even not support heaven-level cultivation. That is to say, the cultivation techniques obtained from Xiao are just some unnecessary introductory techniques. Jia Yan really doesn't like Jia Yan. He mainly wants to protect the disciple he likes in this North Star. In addition, he also wants to see if his current fame can deter those who want to obtain yin and yang Dao. If someone really takes action against Xiao's family, the technique is another matter, which also shows that Jia Yan's current reputation is not at a level that can deter those young people. Fortunately, this concern has not been verified. Their family didn't have any problems like attacks, but Jia Yan told them to be careful, as there might be similar situations in the future. After thinking about it, Jia Yan sent another condolence email to the company that had been entrusted to take care of his family. The letter mentioned the matter of protection. Presumably if he was famous enough at the moment, the other party would take it seriously. Okay, after doing this, it's my boring and tedious training process. It has been many days since I absorbed the power of the blood leech creature, and my stomach is still bulging. I don't know if I want to make it subside a little. How long will it take? Jia Yan looked at his belly and felt helpless. A mosquito's belly will swell after sucking blood, not to mention that what he sucked is the flesh and blood of a strong man who is not weaker than himself, and may even be slightly stronger than himself in terms of brainwave power. The condensation digested almost all the bones and flesh of the blood leech creatures. In fact, the energy was not completely absorbed, but only about 1/3 was absorbed. Due to the transformation, it may have been used by him in the end. There will be only half, that is, 1/6 of the power of the entire blood leech creature, but even so, it is an extremely amazing absorption rate and energy. If I can absorb all this energy, I have to take a closer look to see if the impurities in this power are ineffective or even harmful to me. Although I have been emphasizing that after arriving inside the northern superstar, I must take a good look. Increasing the complexity of my physique will help me to become a territory lord. More complexity is my foundation, but such a mess will not work. Jia Yan Cha sighed. To be honest, although he was quite happy at first, because after absorbing the energy of this blood leech creature, his energy moved forward greatly, and even pushed it to almost the peak of the middle-level peak of the galaxy, but after calming down and thinking about it, Jia Yan was a little helpless, thinking that he didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Because this blood leech creature is also a being that absorbs external power, he is stuck at the peak of the middle-level galaxy and cannot be promoted. It is most likely because the energy he absorbs is too mixed, which makes his promotion difficult. At present, although Jia Yan has refined his energy a little, the problem still exists. In other words, Jia Yan is likely to follow in his footsteps and become stuck because of the complexity of energy at the top of the intermediate galaxy. This is a big problem, but if it has been absorbed, what can we do? Fortunately, there is still good news, that is, while absorbing his power, I have also gone through a certain amount of screening and transformation. Those things that are too useless, I have not absorbed at all, and I am still absorbing it now. I will never inhale that kind of useless energy. The reason why Jia Yan absorbs it slowly is because he has to select the better ones among the endless various powers that can be used by himself, and then convert them into the ones that are useful in his body, and then devour them. In this way, what he gets will be roughly what he can use. It's just that this will greatly prolong his absorption process, and this kind of screening is not necessarily absolute. If you accidentally let go of some not so good ones, it will actually be transformed into part of your own energy in the future. If you want to get rid of it, there is no way. So easy. Phew, that's almost it. The most we can screen today is this, but the energy of this blood leech creature is quite interesting to me. It has devoured so much power, and the energy of its body can actually absorb so many kinds of things. It's incredible that the energy can be gathered together without causing physical problems. When Jia Yan was fighting the blood leech creature, he had already said that he would devour creatures of the other race. Now that he has been studying the physical sensation of the blood leech creature, he can't help but feel similar feelings again. But he is not such a bad guy, just think about it. The point is that this blood leech creature's hometown is in the enemy's rear. Jia Yan has now been nailed with the badge of the Master's Force Officer. If a person runs over other people will, if he said he was going to study those blood leech races, he would definitely be captured by the enemy's army when he was halfway there. So I can only think about it. Actually, for me, their absorption ability is not necessary to study, because although the absorption ability of this race is weird, it is still a little worse than my own condensation absorption ability. It must have been originally created. The seniors of my race are really earth-shattering beings, and even this race is far behind. In comparison, Jia Yan clearly understands that his evolutionary beast-devouring talent is much stronger than other people's races. In other words, the prospects of his race may be greater than Jia Yan originally expected. Sharp. It's just a pity that the evolved beast family is limited to the Orion arm, and every one that appears will be destroyed. The number is small and random, so the current status of the race is not very strong. If I can develop, I can be considered as protecting my own race, the evolved beast clan. Haha, I hope I can become such a existence after I become the territory lord. Jia Yan smiled. In fact, the evolved beast clan has had a glorious era, especially when those domain lord level seniors appeared. The evolved beasts are like the saints. They are extremely noble in the entire Orion arm and even around the Orion arm. Although they are few in number, they are still a little bit close to becoming a large clan that will exist forever. It's just a pity that those seniors at the time were all exerting their power around the Orion arm, but it seemed that none of them chose to go to the central star field of the Milky Way. As a result, they were definitely not fighting type territory lords. After all, in the external environment, there is no such thing as a fighting type. Even if you have strong racial talents and good combat talents, there are no enemies worth fighting around, so your potential cannot be realized, let alone in Biostar. Within the superstar, there are countless reference examples, as well as extremely talented creatures for research and growth. After comparing the two sides, it is no wonder that so many domain lord level seniors at the beginning became evolutionaries one after another after their demise. The beast race suffered catastrophes again and again. In the evolved beast clan, although I am not as powerful as the seniors, the path I take is completely different from them. I even created the yin and yang dao, and I also have the talent for subspace. These are my advantages. Before entering the domain master threshold, I had a premonition. It is very likely that I will not follow the path of those previous territory lord level seniors, but will truly lead the entire race, no, the entire Orion arm, onto a truly powerful path. I don't care about the fate of those seniors. I will bear it, even if there are enemies, even if there may be crises, I will resolve them one by one. I am Jia Yan, an evolved beast who is destined to become a domain lord and then achieve a truly famous career. I am also a giant beast in the starry sky, and I am still Jia Yan, a former earthling. In his heart, Jia Yan once again affirmed and encouraged himself about his own path, and again made various plans to summarize and resolve his dangers and difficulties. No matter how many problems there are, he can find ways to solve them. Don't be afraid if the road to become a territory lord is difficult. As long as you rack your brains to, there will be no obstacles in the world that you can't overcome. Jia Yan was thinking, and at the same time it was a kind of encouragement to give himself more motivation. He thought too much and poured too much chicken soup on himself. Then, he gained the confidence to channel the endless energy that seemed to make no sense. Don't be in a hurry, you can't be in a hurry. If you are in a hurry now and attack the territory lord casually, failure is one thing. Even if I succeed, my path to a fighting territory lord will be cut off. Even if I am a stronger territory lord, but when I return to the Orion arm, what is the difference from the predecessors before me? Maybe I will also face death and become a legend, so I can't be impatient and can't follow the old path of the predecessors. If you want to succeed, then become the best territory lord, fighting type. Jia Yan affirmed himself again and again, and then summarized his own path and general direction. Sir, the enemy is attacking. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2278. Just like establishing Jia Long's will, when Jia Yan made up his mind, enemy troops immediately came to his door. That's right, this unit didn't come specifically to fight the prestigious Jia Yan unit, but came across the door accidentally. In this huge grassland terrain, there are dozens or hundreds of troops on both sides, and each troop has activated the signal confusion mechanism, plus a device to obscure the enemy. Although the network signal is not affected, among them, and there are differences in wartime guidance between the enemy and ourselves, etc. Therefore, when the two sides are almost close to Jia Yan, unless there is extremely accurate intelligence, it will be difficult to identify the enemy and us. This force just knew that there was a small force here that controlled the power of the leader. They relied on their own number of 1,000 people, and there was another friendly force not far away who could support each other at any time, so they broke through. Came to the door. When they knew that the master's force they were facing was the famous Jia Yan force, both sides had already started fighting. This is Jia Yan's army. Ah, commander killed us. Didn't we agree that this time it must be a big fish? It's not just a big fish, it's too big for us to eat. Run away. Damn, look over there, a group of soldiers from Jia Yan's army of the same level joined forces and killed more than 30 people of the same level on our side. You, who hasn't heard of Jia Yan's army? If you can't win, run away. Not long after the enemy troops destroyed Jia Yan's thoughts, they suddenly fled to one side as if they were joking. Stop chasing me. There is something fishy about the enemy's attack. There is no reason for them to come here to kill someone. Let's arrest their senior officials and ask for information. The battle had only started for less than 5 minutes. This 1,000-man enemy force, which had lost more than half of its troops, took advantage of the darkness and fled far away. Because of such a simple battle, Jia Yan was worried that they would become an army. It was a bait to lure him to the trap, so he even gave an order not to pursue him. But when Jia Yan asked his subordinates to carry a middle-level and high-level enemy officer and asked for information, he couldn't laugh or cry. Well, it turns out that this is because the enemy force of 1,000 people in front of them didn't understand the true identity of Jia Yan's troops, so they wanted to take credit, rushed forward and beat them, and only after the fight did they realize that they had kicked the iron plate. And it was the most terrifying iron plate, so they ran away one by one with bare hands. There is no such thing as a trap. Forget it. In the night, the enemy also said that there were reinforcements around, so we stopped chasing and left quickly to the other side. The number and location of our unit are unknown to both the enemy and us. Since someone has grasped all the points, we must move the battlefield as soon as possible. Jia Yan gave the order to evacuate, but he was actually helpless. He didn't expect that while he was just thinking about things here, someone blindly came to him looking for death. What? Is the army over there Jia Yan's army? Why are they so elusive all the time? What should we do now? According to the departure route of Jia Yan's troops, our troops are also on the route he passed. Although there is no evidence that he will attack us, this troops often does not play according to their cards. We have to guard against it. Be on guard, there is no other way. This Jia Yan force has already been affirmed by the domain lords, saying that they will be a very troublesome force. Defense. But our mission is to defeat the eastern forces of the Master's forces within these few days. Once the defense is launched, the progress of the matter will be slowed down. So what if we don't do this? It's better than if Jia Yan's troops suddenly came out of nowhere and attacked us while we were fighting, right? Well, that's right. It doesn't matter if it takes a few days. In short, we really have to wait until the intelligence is confirmed and members of Jia Yan's unit appear elsewhere, so that we can start the mission. Among the enemy troops, there are two major forces, one is a radical faction, and the other is relatively moderate. The forces of the radical faction have been trying to launch a surprise attack strategy in the past few days. Because they learned about the Master's power, the grassland troops followed the example of Jia Yan's troops and began to disperse into groups to fight guerrilla warfare. They thought of a route, cutting a group of thousands of people who controlled the power into a small area, then surrounded them in one fell swoop, and then eaten them. But what they never expected was that according to the intelligence they had just received, Jia Yan's troops were within their encirclement. As a result, the strong men in these troops hesitated. The name of Jia Yan's troops can be said to be known to everyone on the grasslands today. Even members of the enemy troops have admitted that at least in this grassland, blitzkrieg is the main tactic, and there is yin and yang dao. With the combined method and those explosives, Jia Yan's troops are almost invincible. So when they learned that Jia Yan's troops were within their predetermined encirclement, the executors who formulated the strategy immediately gave up the idea helplessly. Let's go, everyone, follow my Jia Yan troops. I think you can leave this area smoothly. I have told you before that you are too close to the lake shore. If you are surrounded by the enemy, I'm afraid you will be caught off guard. If you follow me now, you will be bypassing this area. In the sky, a long line of chariots, mixed with military chariots and artillery trains, were flying rapidly in the sky. The leader was Jia Yan's troops, followed by a large number of other friendly troops. Why does Jia Yan know the enemy's strategy? In fact, he didn't know, but after being attacked last night, he instinctively investigated the terrain of this area. From this look, he really saw a bit of the enemy's tactics, which also meant that he could vaguely see the danger in this area for our army. Adhering to the principle of avoiding danger as much as possible, Jia Yan called up friendly forces in the area, and then headed out overnight with 1,000 members of his Jia Yan unit as the vanguard. In fact, there are not many friendly troops in this area, just 3,000 to 4,000 troops, and Jia Yan's troops account for 1,000 of them. What's more coincidental is that although the enemy has been monitoring Jia Yan's troops, they deliberately let him leave. In the middle of the night, under the circumstances, there were so many chariots, and they thought they were all Jia Yan's troops. Although the number was a little more, didn't Jia Yan's troops just win a battle? Maybe they wanted to capture more? Ever since, when the situation reached noon, the enemy forces in the encirclement finally realized that Jia Yan's troops seemed to have completely left the area, and then exhaled a long breath, knowing that Jia Yan's troops would not have time to come to the rescue again. And quickly took advantage of Jia Yan's troops to leave, and the army surrounded the turtle in the urn that had been prepared before. Result: what the hell? Where are the people? Where are the thousands of troops who control the power? Aren't they surrounded by us? Well, when Jia Yan's troops left last night, they were followed by a group of tanks, cannons, and other flying equipment. We thought it was strange before. It couldn't really be these troops. They were following Jia Yan's troops. No. It's impossible. Jia Yan's troops are not so good at predicting things. He actually let them follow. Hey, there are surveillance cameras here. Destroy them quickly. Don't let the masters know that we have gathered tens of thousands of people here. Troops. This large group of troops, which was equivalent to one member of the enemy's main force, was defeated. At the same time, the surveillance cameras left in the area instantly transmitted the scene to Jia Yan's troops and those working with Jia Yan's troops. In the hands of thousands of troops who left. Are there really enemy troops surrounding us? If we hadn't left with Jia Yan's troops last night, wouldn't we be doomed now? Oh my God, there are at least tens of thousands of people. If we are swallowed by them, we will definitely be doomed. With the loss of several thousand of our troops, the grassland troops that originally numbered tens of thousands of troops will be at a huge disadvantage. Then the entire campaign will become extremely passive, and it may even fail. Does that mean that Jia Yan's troops saved the entire grassland battlefield again? Jia Yan's troops, no, this strategy and judgment should all be thought up by Jia Yan alone. His commanding ability is truly unparalleled. My God, it's really a good thing to be an ally with such a powerful creature. I can't even imagine the despair the enemy must feel when facing an enemy like him. Hurry up and build a good relationship with Jia Yan again. This strong man is really not an ordinary person. If we build a good relationship with him, we might be able to get some guidance from him in the future. When the pattern was passed to one's own troops, everyone believed Jia Yan's judgment because the facts were before their eyes. The senior commanders of the troops who had survived the disaster finally agreed that Jia Yan was much better than them in terms of crisis awareness. As a result, messages of thanks one after another, as well as messages of wanting to get closer to Jia Yan, became very frequent. Jia Yan did not completely reject this. After all, in the army, it is extremely necessary to maintain relations with friendly forces. At this moment, Jia Yan's troops once again became the star role of the entire friendly army. Although they soon arrived in the vast grassland and the troops were scattered again, this time Jia Yan's troops once again rescued thousands of friendly troops. The incident spread like wildfire throughout our own army. Jia Yan's troops have become synonymous with invincible, and Jia Yan himself has become a military godlike existence. In particular, some ordinary soldiers who were not so powerful began to wonder why Jia Yan was only given 1,000 men and horses. If Jia Yan was given more men and horses, wouldn't Jia Yan be able to train an army that can defeat the enemy? The main force? Although Jia Yan's troops of 1,000 men and horses are very powerful, and there is a high probability that they will encounter an enemy army 3 times more numerous than them, and they have the possibility of defeating them, but after all, they are still too few. Many soldiers are imagining that if Jia Yan is given 3,000 men or even 5,000 men as his subordinates, and he trains such powerful troops, wouldn't he be able to fight against tens of thousands of enemies? Army, is there a head-on battle? 5,000 can fight 15,000, which means that there will be an extremely powerful force on the entire grassland battlefield. Even the enemy has to face it. Even because of this 5,000 army, the pace of invasion will be stopped. Indefinite. It's a pity that the leaders seem to have not heard these private remarks and were completely indifferent. In fact, they didn't say it. Many ordinary non-commissioned officers and Jia Yan himself knew the reason. Unlike low-ranking soldiers or low-ranking non-commissioned officers, ordinary high-level commanders understand that commanding a force of 1,000 people is completely different from commanding a force of 3,000 people, or even commanding a force of 5,000 people. Although Jia Yan has the ability to command 1,000 troops, commanding 3,000 troops is different. At least the way of training will be different, because he still has the energy to go to small teams and personally guide them, but when it is the turn of 3 it's impossible for him to have that kind of energy with 1,000 people, let alone 5,000 people. If there are too many people in command, they may become useless, but it will drag down the combat effectiveness of Jia Yan's troops. By then, 3,000 people will not have the combat effectiveness of 1,000 people now. That will make people cry without tears. Not only the top leaders are observing, but Jia Yan himself is also observing this matter. If he feels that he has the ability to command 3,000 or 5,000 people, he might even volunteer himself. Unfortunately, so far, he has not felt that he has this ability. At least if he wanted to keep the 3,000 man army at the elite level of 1,000 men, he couldn't do it. The plan for now is to deal with these 1,000 people first. Their number of battles is still too few. If we can let this unit fight a few more battles, and then let the veterans become more elite warriors, we can, after successfully practicing the yin and yang dao joint combat method and the use of explosives, and looking like a real elite, I can't ask for more space from above, at least even for myself. I can't afford to train so many more people, but with skilled soldiers under my command, they can help 2 people and bring out more recruits. Jia Yan's plan was relatively rational. He did not think that he should command more people like other troops or some overconfident people in Jia Yan's troops. Nor did he feel that he was inferior to other troop commanders. Just how strong it is. Everything is just because I have a lot of experience in yin-yang dao joint war, plus the great advantages that yin-yang dao and explosives have in the North Star. Putting all this aside, Jia Yan felt that he might not have a local commander to command him well. Jia Yan is so humble, whether he thinks he has low self-esteem or thinks he just wants to be lazy, in short, he does not want to be in such limelight. But in fact, he has not been very interested in fighting with large groups of troops recently. High-speed text hand-typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2279. Jia Yan's greatest interest today lies in how to train several of your mid-level galactic subordinates, and then place yourself among them, and join forces with these subordinates to truly be able to deal with a territory lord. That's right, it's the domain lord. This is Jia Yan's biggest ambition at the moment. Of course, this matter must be given a certain chance, otherwise it would be impossible for a territory lord to appear in front of Jia Yan and others like that without a younger brother. So everything has to wait for an opportunity. Moreover, Jia Yan's subordinates are not trained enough today. If they just practice yin and yang dao combined tactics casually, they can get such huge combat effectiveness, then Jia Yan doesn't have to do anything else. Once it's done, in the future, if we recruit more mid-level galaxy subordinates, I'm afraid we'll be able to walk sideways on the North Star. This matter must be considered in the long term. I am afraid that my joint strategy will not be so easy to defeat a domain lord. Then I have to think about how to get more cooperation from my subordinates. Spend. Jia Yan's joint strategy has one of the biggest advantages, that is, he will personally join the joint system, and the entire yin and yang dao is created by himself. It can be said that his judgment will be the entire yin and yang dao so far. The most reasonable person may not be someone who exceeds his current level in the future. So he joined that combat team, which is equivalent to having the most powerful brain. In this way, he can single-handedly improve the combat effectiveness of this team in another geometric form, and with coordination after the explosives, the combat effectiveness may not only be doubled, but may even be improved several times or even 10 times. In other words, the 4 ordinary intergalactic mid-level creatures, or even the 4 combat-type intergalactic mid-level pinnacle creatures, cannot defeat one territory lord, so what about the 40? Even if you still can't beat him, if you use some unique methods, the chances are not gone. This is Jia Yan's biggest and most confident reason. Now that I understand that my ability is the most important thing in this joint team, I have to think more carefully about how to maximize my advantage. It's hard to have a clue about something. As long as you have a certain clue, it can be analyzed very quickly. For example, right now, Jia Yan wants to deal with a territory lord, but the ordinary galaxy mid-level team, no matter how many people there are, can't do it with joint tactics. The only chance is that there is someone like him in the team. The founder of Yin and Yang Tao is inside. Then this only possible advantage must be used to the maximum. Everything must revolve around him, and even safety must protect him. Otherwise, if the brain dies, the team will be doomed. Jia Yan is not afraid of death. Come on, write down what you have thought of, and start practicing them like this tomorrow. Jia Yan took out the small smart brain device he originally purchased, opened the virtual screen, and started writing and drawing. In this way, a long time passed until dawn on this day. Sir, do you actually want us to practice like this? It's not impossible, it just feels a bit unbalanced. Bah, bastard, what qualifications do you have to disbelieve what Mr. Jia Yan said? I can see that there is always someone in our team who is not very happy, and it is you. Sir, I have said that there is no one in this team. Not all of them have to use intermediate galaxy. Who can't? It's okay to switch to a junior galaxy from one of the veterans. Do you want to be replaced? I'm not, I'm just saying, okay, I have no objection. Starting early in the morning, Jia Yan looked for a direction where there were no enemy troops or our troops around. In an open space, all the members of Jia Yan's unit stopped one by one and began a large-scale training of the entire army. This situation has been going on for many days. For the members of Jia Yan's unit, everyone has long been accustomed to this kind of thing, so no one complained about being tired. But in Jia Yan's team, Jia Yan proposed several improvements instead of the previous day's joint equal approach, and then there was actually a mid-level galaxy being who expressed his somewhat doubtful opinions. Of course, this objection did not wait for Jia Yan's own answer, but another mid-level galaxy being on the side rushed to scold him back. The people in Jia Yan's army have long been used to it. They cannot question all of Jia Yan's decisions too much. In the past, many of the current things were not without soldiers questioning or even resisting. But often it's just a slap in the face afterwards, so the veterans have long told the newcomers that they can do anything else, but they can't question Jia Yan, because Jia Yan will not slowly explain to you, but will change it. People. Although Jia Yan does not have any more intergalactic beings to replace, these intergalactic interlevel beings understand very well that if you question Jia Yan, then in addition to causing Jia Yan to be blocked, what he wants to do will be slowed down. Other than that, it had no other effect at all, so these few people heard that a galaxy mid-level person actually questioned what Jia Yan said, and all of them scolded the questioner in turn. Haha, in fact, you all can probably figure out what I am doing. Yes, it is to create a fighting team with me as the center, and there are many principles of yin and yang that you have not come into contact with yet. As for you can only see the effect in actual combat in the future. In short, I have one thing to tell you, that is, I will not harm my comrades. Jia Yan said very sincerely. Even though two of the three mid-level galactic beings present did not propose anything, Jia Yan felt that he still had to speak openly and honestly, so that he could try to resolve any small differences between the two parties. Only in this way could it be possible. This made their combined tactics even more outstanding. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry for questioning you. I apologize and I won't do this again in the future. The middle-level being in the galaxy lowered his head to Jia Yan and apologized extremely sincerely. Okay, let's continue. I have already said that our team must be able to deal with the Domain Lord. This is not a boast. As for whether it is possible, you will know later. Jia Yan said calmly, and then continued the training process. Today's Jia Yan troops were said to be on alert, but they were still undergoing high-intensity training throughout the day. If it weren't for the fact that the new recruits were all veterans in other fields, or even elite soldiers who had experienced many battles, some of them might have been unable to endure the hardship and began to run away. Fortunately, this did not happen, which made Jia Yan very emotional. The creatures in this northern giant star were extraordinary, and their qualities were much stronger than those of the strong creatures outside. Ha! Bang! A group of heaven-level creatures moved together in the most typical three-person manner of Jia Yan's troops, and then when they flew to a mountain top, they exerted their strength at the same time, as if they were one person, and bombarded an attack. This was just a combined attack of their brainwave power, but there was a sound of wind and thunder, and then the brainwave power was like a bolt from the blue, bombarding the mountains on the surface. The mountaintop was turned upside down by the explosion and was in a mess. Ha ha ha, Chang Hao, this is at least the combat power that only a venerable can possess, but when we join forces, we actually have venerable level combat power. Before this, if someone told me that a group of heaven level people could work together to exert the fighting power of the venerable, I wouldn't believe it. But now I see that there really is such a fighting skill in the world and I have learned it. It's simply the hardest thing I've ever waited for. Haha, if we are all still alive after this war, let's worship together in the future. If we cooperate for a long time, we don't know how far our combat effectiveness will be exerted. If we become sworn brothers, even if we meet someone who is higher than us, we don't have to be afraid of being bullied by tall and powerful people. Okay, let's become sworn brothers. It's agreed, ha ha ha. I've heard that many people from other teams have already done this. Master Jia Yan is not only asking us to make comradeship, but also helping us to form a lifelong brotherhood. Now that I'm out, I'll have to thank Mr. Jia Yan in the future. These heaven-level creatures seem to be very respectful and grateful to Jia Yan. In the starry sky, it is not easy to make true friends anywhere, but in this Jia Yan unit, because of the concern of the order, the members who form the team, at least at the moment, must be of the same mind, otherwise it will be impossible. There is a chemical reaction, so everyone feels like they have two more brothers. When they are in a group of three, they are completely committed to the teammates around them. As a result, there were a lot of sworn brothers and so on, who seemed closer than real brothers. Of course, this matter may not be as close as it is now after the war, and it is even possible that some people will turn against each other and become enemies, but at least for now, it seems that there should not be too many similar existences. Very good. At least the cooperation of the three of you can be independent of me. Even without me, you will still be a good mid-level galaxy combat team. In other words, if Mr. Jia Yan joins us, with the guidance of your brainwave power, we will feel as if we are suddenly several times stronger. No wonder Mr. Jia Yan said, "You are our brain." It is indeed correct. Even if you just output the brainwave power from the center and send out a certain amount of combat effectiveness at the critical moment, our combat effectiveness will be doubled several times. It's amazing. On the other side, in the Galaxy mid-level team in training, the three Galaxy mid-level subordinates have flattered Jia Yan to an extreme extent. This also includes the guys who had some doubts about Jia Yan before. Of course, Jia Yan actually didn't ask them to praise him or anything, they did it completely spontaneously. Although there is a certain suspicion of flattery, in fact, these three Galaxy mid-levels, after slowly mastering the joint fighting method of Yin and Yang Dao just now, suddenly felt that if they followed Jia Yan's guidance to fight, it will become a completely different team. Without the guidance of Jia Yan's brainwave power, it will become a much weaker team. Let's put it this way, without Jia Yan, the three of them can also form a normal three-person team, but the combat power they can unleash is at most double that of the three people joining forces. With this kind of fighting power, if they encounter a more powerful mid-level peak fighting type of galaxy, they may fail. Even if there is a peak mid-level galaxy in this team, it is still difficult to overcome this gap in strength. But what if we add Jia Yan, the leader among the top mid-level players in the galaxy? They could no longer measure the smoothness of their fighting power. Feeling it, the fighting type at the top of the mid-level galaxy must be irresistible. It was infinitely stronger than when the three of them joined forces. Of course, they still don't have that much confidence when it comes to dealing with the territory lord, but when it comes to dealing with an extremely powerful mid-level peak combat type from the galaxy, there's nothing surprising, because Jia Yan himself is a top fighter. He is a fighting type. If after he joins, the four of them can't defeat a galaxy mid-level peak fighting type, then what's the point? I've said it before, my goal is not just the fighting type you imagine. Oh, forget it, let's do it again. I feel that there is still some room for improvement in the connection between everyone. Of course, this is just rough improvement, which really allows us to exert our perfect combat effectiveness, may require long-term training. We don't have that much time, so we just need to improve it to the best possible level. Jia Yan knew very well that no matter how hard he trained these subordinates in front of him, they would not believe that four people could fight a domain lord together, so he did not pursue it anymore and just trained in secret. I added some moves and ideas to deal with the domain lord. For example, when I was in the middle, I looked for the first person in Chiyuan to make a move, but I didn't take action. I was free. If the opponent was a domain lord, he would definitely block the front. I have nothing to do with this subordinate's attack. I must have some ideas at this time to enrich the attack plan. By the way, although I am operating in the center, I still have attack methods. If I throw out at this time, where are the explosives? Jia Yan always came up with some good ideas during practice, and then he didn't go to practice, but just kept them in his mind. Most of these ideas are based on using his unique brain position to attack from all directions, and among the ideas he came up with, throwing explosives is the key. Okay, everyone has worked hard. Today's training ends here. Starting tomorrow, we have to move a certain distance again. There is no order coming from the top. We can still train for a few more days. I hope that after a few days, everyone can have different combat performance. Yes. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2280. When the day passed and the sun set, Jia Yan passed the order to rest, and members of Jia Yan's troops swarmed toward their vehicles one by one. To be honest, in places where high technology is relatively developed, going out to fight is not as hard as sleeping in the open air. Just like the Jiayan army, each soldier only has a small resting room, but everyone has his own resting place. So after training, everyone can go back to the house to take a shower, rest, and even have entertainment programs. For Jia Yan, it is not as difficult as marching. Of course, training is also very hard, so Jia Yan did not object to these soldiers going back to the house to surf the internet, take a shower, etc. Ha ha ha, brothers, I'm here, let's continue playing the game. Oh, by the way, I am from Jia Yan's army. Today we have become stronger again. Alas, it is really a pity. You are not members of Jia Yan's army. No, knowing how strong our Jia Yan troops are now, I dare say that our Jia Yan troops will have a chance to win against any troops with less than 10,000 troops. Shit, you kid, just blow it. I don't even believe that you are from Jia Yan's army. Even if you are from Jia Yan's army, I don't believe that you have such strong fighting power. How many people are there in Jia Yan's army? Thousands of people want to fight. How do you fight an army of less than 10,000 people and an army of 9,000 people? Do you think you are all supermen? Bah! You're from Jia Yan's army? Those are really powerful and brave people, but you are playing games with us and don't even dare to be a vanguard. You still say that you are from Jia Yan's army? Let me guess what kind of logistics soldier you are. In an online game, the soldiers of the Master's Force who had been busy all day started the game in unison. However, this game is a built-in game. Most of it is a battle process that soldiers have to go through in reality. The only players who can join are soldiers. Therefore, all soldiers within the Master's influence can enter. It is also divided into several groups. such as war zones. Prairie soldiers play in the prairie war zones and do not communicate with the outside world. A soldier who controlled the power met by chance with soldiers from several other units and joined the other party's team. This was considered as a way to familiarize himself with the skills of joint operations with unfamiliar units. Unexpectedly, after going online today, he said that he was from Jia Yan's army, and the soldier was laughed at. Not just him, many soldiers who control the power do not perform as well as Jia Yan's troops on the internet, and because they generally have not encountered members of Jia Yan's troops, they cannot use Jia Yan's yin and yang. Dao joins forces to fight, so it is impossible to break out and make people look at him differently, so being ridiculed is equivalent to being ridiculed in vain. I am really from Jia Yan's army. Oh, forget it if you don't believe it. Next time your army encounters a problem, don't blame me for not saving you. Ha ha ha, a coward like you is still from Jia Yan's army, not to mention that the game is a place that can reflect the comprehensive ability of a soldier. Your combat effectiveness has been known to us in the past few days in the team. If you are from Jia Yan's army, yes, then we are senior officials in Jia Yan's army, don't be ridiculous. The member of Jia Yan's unit who was laughed at had an ugly expression. He used the appearance of his real body to log into the game. In other words, if you see him in reality, he will be exactly the same character as he is in the game. Being laughed at in the game is equivalent to being laughed at in reality. How can this not make him feel angry? However, this soldier had nowhere to express his anger and felt extremely aggrieved, because in real-life battles, he and his teammates in his team had already killed several strong men who were stronger than them, but in the game, the joint tactics cannot be used, and there are no teammates around him who can cooperate well with him. He seems to have been beaten back to his original form, without even a trace of uniqueness. It is no wonder that he is teased by his comrades in the game. Okay, just wait. The soldier reluctantly quit the game. At the same time, in the internal forum of the Jia Yan army on the internet, he carefully wrote anonymously, "Comrades, we are not even proud of our real members of the Jia Yan army on the internet, can't be revealed, don't you think? We as individuals should also increase our strength. We must work hard in the future and let Master Jia Yan teach us the yin and yang Tao of individuals." After he said this post, a large number of anonymous soldiers also posted replies, all of them agreeing with him. In fact, all the soldiers know that Jia Yan's yin and yang Dao is not really impossible to practice, because there are rumors from the outside world that Jia Yan has accepted a genius child from the outside world as his apprentice in the distant Gongjuling land, and he is alone at home. It is said that they all practice very well in cultivation, so why can't they teach these soldiers? Of course, Yin Yang Dao belongs to Jia Yan. He does not want to teach others. It is his own freedom. These soldiers knew this detail, but they did not want Jia Yan to hand over Yin Yang Dao forcibly. What's more, they can't do this. They can only strive to impress Jia Yan with better performance like this aggrieved soldier, so that he can come up with formal Yin and Yang Dao cultivation methods in the future to make all even soldiers can practice. Jia Yan also saw the uproar on the internet. As the commander of Jia Yan's troops, he actually had the authority to see the specific name of the poster, but he did not do so. Well, I don't know what they think. In fact, I don't want to promote Yin and Yang Tao, but my strength is not strong enough. Wait until I become the territory lord. After I become the territory lord, I will have a certain confidence. I want to promote Yin Yang Dao. Of course, I can't promote it too vigorously at that time, otherwise even if I am a territory lord, there will be strong and weak ones. In short, I cannot promote the concept of Yin Yang Dao and Yin Yang Dao before I reach the strength of the territory lord. The powerful power it brings will make many forces either covet me or be hostile to me. If I really do it, I might be remembered by many forces. Jia Yan closed the post. It's not that he is cruel, but for him now, the most important thing is to fulfill his role as an officer, rather than an outside preacher teaching others the yin and yang Tao. If this thing is done well, it will give him a power of his own, but if it is not done well, he will be doomed. At least so far, apart from angering several hostile forces because he became a non-commissioned officer, Jia Yan has not done anything more to make the major forces hostile. But if he wants to promote yin and yang Dao, then there will be a big problem. Even among the master's forces, there may be some forces that will deal with him because of interests. The current peak strength of the mid-level galaxy is not enough, at least not enough in the northern superstar where the territory lord is everywhere. Therefore, Jia Yan will not teach these soldiers on a large scale. Ah, sir, another army suddenly encountered the enemy near us and sent us a distress signal. I wonder if we should stop the planned training plan and go to them. In the early morning, Jia Yan's troops, who had been repairing all night, soon received a distress signal. The adjutant also followed the regulations and rushed to Jia Yan's military vehicle as soon as possible to conduct intelligence research. Transfer. Oh. Are there any troops asking for help? Since it's a friendly force asking for help, how could we not dispatch? Let everyone prepare and set off immediately. Yes. Jia Yan's troops have long been accustomed to similar requests for help. The entire army quickly returned to wartime conditions from rest or games. Don't think that the soldiers were wasting their energy by not sleeping. In fact, everyone is strong. Not to mention not sleeping for one night, even if you let them not sleep for a year or even 10 years, most of them can handle it. Resting is just to recover from fatigue after fighting or training. Playing games can also quickly recover from fatigue. Huh? Are you out? I'm still posting. Alas, I'll post this part at night. In the game, the soldier who was laughed at by his comrades was still sending a post. A post with some complaining thoughts. He changed and deleted it, deleted and changed it, so he couldn't post it for a long time. The result was waiting. News of the gathering. As a soldier, especially a soldier of Jia Yan's army, he is extremely disciplined, otherwise he will be kicked out of Jia Yan's army immediately. At least until now, Jia Yan's army has never driven out anyone. If it would be humiliating for him to be the first one. This soldier was a strong man who cooperated well with two venerables of the same level. He immediately ran to the side of his two companions. The chariot started, and the three of them talked and laughed along the way. They even sighed. In the past, when they were in other troops, if they heard the sound of fighting, they would be frightened and speechless. But after arriving at Jia Yan's troops, when news of the gathering appears, they are often extremely excited, because they will have military exploits soon and the chance of death is quite small. After chatting and laughing, after arriving at the area where the friendly forces sent out a distress signal, the venerable class and his teammates began to file out one by one. Boom boom boom. In the distant sky and earth, there was a burst of artillery fire and the collision and explosion of the strong man's brainwave power. Very good, everyone reacted very quickly. Believe me, the practice in these few days will definitely be beneficial. You will soon find that you will be stronger than yourselves in the last battle. Comrades and yours cooperation will also be stronger, so don't be afraid, follow the previous fighting methods, follow my instructions, and go out. Yes. The venerable man watched Jia Yan with great admiration and said the above words before he and his three companions rushed towards the battlefield. Our team must perform well in this battle. Many times before, among our venerable level joint teams, we were not even ranked among the best. Although Jia Yan's troops are good enough, within Jia Yan's troops, it's not an outstanding team at all. No matter what, we have to strive for the top 10 positions this time. Are you too confident? Haha, of course there is. Please listen to Lord Jia Yan's orders later. As long as we obey his orders, it will be easy for us to obtain military exploits. Lord Jiayan's orders are often the most effective means of obtaining military exploits, even if our combat effectiveness may be a little weaker than other teams, and there was one last time who was a little weaker than our strength, and ended up in third place. That's for sure. A large part of Jiayan's army is actually strong, not because we have trained the joint tactics of Yin and Yang Dao, but because of the personal command of Master Jiayan. Stop talking and listen to the orders. Yes. After the three venerables joined together, they charged forward along with the advancing troops of nearly 1,000 people. At this moment, the friendly forces were already in a crazy rout because they were sneak attacked by the enemy. If Jiayan's troops had not arrived, maybe it would not be long before the friendly forces were suddenly attacked by the enemy and completely lost their combat effectiveness. The army may be annihilated. But that may not have happened, because Jiayan's troops came. On this grassland battlefield, the members of Jiayan's army represent the word legend. Huh? What kind of army is that over there? This. Damn, it's from Jiayan's troops. Be careful. Although our surprise attack force this time has more than 2,000 troops, Jiayan's troops are Jiayan's troops after all. Although they only have 1,000 troops, according to the combat effectiveness of Jiayan's troops, it is very likely that none of us are opponents. We will fight for another 10 minutes. If we find that the situation is not right, we will retreat. In these 10 minutes, we will try our best to make this small force of the Master's force at our feet as weak as possible, otherwise our strategic goal will be lost. Not achieved. Okay, boys, hurry up and speed up the battle. This Jiayan unit will have its own vanguard force to deal with it. It's only 10 minutes, they will definitely be able to hold on. The members of the enemy army were all extremely annoyed by the arrival of Jiayan's troops. Although the number of Jiayan's troops was not large, for the enemy troops on this battlefield, the name of Jiayan's troops itself was the existence that made them thunderous. Now when they were about to succeed, Jiayan's troops appeared. This group of enemy soldiers was so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. In this way, the members of Jiayan's army broke into the battlefield one by one. For them, the entire unit is not afraid of casualties, because the enemy in front of them, after the assessment just before the arrival, is not the opponent of Jiayan's troops at all, let alone the Jiayan's troops who have been training for several days. So everyone rushed forward, eager to be the first to arrive and then compete for victory. Let's hurry up. The Holy Trinity team is also in contention. Of course, they are still closely following the command of Master Jiayan himself. Brigade number 5, go to the right, to the lower right of Team 003, and launch a bombing attack on the enemy. Suddenly, a voice came from my ears. Here we come, Team 003, aren't you talking about us? We will be the spearhead. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2281. Ha ha ha, Lord Jiayan has given us orders, hurry up, get down. These three people swooped down like flying. Of course, there were a group of friendly soldiers beside them. Their number 3 team has actually become the main attacking team on this flank. If nothing else happens, their military exploits will be great. Just under this dive, the soldier who was playing games at night suddenly saw several figures among the troops ravaged by the enemy below. It felt extremely familiar. Well, these guys seemed to be my teammates when I played games at night. Are they really them? For a moment, the venerable level man was stunned for a moment, and then, a very proud feeling came to his heart. You too, let me install a pen later. The few over there are actually teammates who look down on me in the game. Oh? Is that so? Ha ha ha, you are really destined. Pht, brother, I also want to meet teammates who look down on me in the game. Unfortunately, there are no them here. Don't worry, we will let you get the pen. The other two members of this team are naturally willing to achieve adult beauty. Boom. Then, the assaulting team suddenly descended and then passed over the enemy troops below. Ah! It's members of Jia Yan's army who are here. The people here are also at the venerable level. I don't believe we can't defeat them. Come on, the 5 of you, come up with me to stop them. Bang. The enemy's number 78 venerable level beings that had just flown into the sky and were about to block the venerable team were turned into pieces of paper, and were instantly beaten to pieces. Ha ha ha, Jia Yan's troops are here. This enemy army dares to attack us while we are playing games. That's great. Here comes the guy from Jia Yan's army. The guy who got offline in the middle of the game yesterday, didn't he say he was from Jia Yan's army? I wonder if you will see him, ha ha ha, he must be bragging, eh. Hey, look, there seems to be a very familiar guy in Jia Yan's team who came down first. Look, does he look like the guy in the game? Impossible. Among the friendly troops, those soldiers from Jia Yan's troops looked above their heads in disbelief. Last night, they ridiculed the soldiers of Jia Yan's army in the game, so they were too familiar with the coming creature. That appearance, if it's not that guy, then who is it? But why is he there? Among the Jia Yan troops who came to help, could this guy really be a member of Jia Yan's troops? That would be such a slap in the face. I just laughed at him yesterday. These friendly soldiers almost forgot to fight, and several enemies around them took the opportunity to sneak attack them in front of them. Don't worry friends, I'm coming too. The approaching soldier from Jia Yan's army, with his 2 venerable level comrades beside him, suddenly fell from the sky, and his brainwave power surged instantly. After a loud bang, the lustful sound was heard. The 2 venerable level enemy creatures that attacked these friendly forces were half blown away by the power of brainwaves in an instant. The terrifying invincible power of the same level dazzled all the friendly forces present, almost thinking that Jia Yan's troops were a small group of half-stars. However, the strength of these 3 people is completely at the level of venerables. The only reason that can explain their extraordinary strength is that they are fighting together. This kind of fighting method is simply unheard of, and this level of maturity in joint fighting is also the reason why they are all dumbfounded. From Jia Yan's team. Go to hell. Without waiting for the coming venerable level being to show off to a few in-game playmates, in this melee battle zone, a half-star enemy commander approached the 3-man team with a sinister smile. After jumping up suddenly, he struck out with 1 blow. A semi-star level expert is still a bit stronger than a venerable level person. Even if he is only stronger by 1 level, a strong person is still a strong person. If he is stronger by 1 level, he is not an ordinary low-level person. There are things that can be dealt with. Not to mention that this half-star existence was still carrying out sneak attacks. Not good. Hide quickly. The 2 game partners who shocked him were really friendly soldiers of Jia Yan's team, and he suddenly exclaimed. Haha, don't worry, friends, it's only half a star. The member of Jia Yan's unit simply put the pen in place. Seeing the attack from this semi-star level entity, he transformed into the center of the 3-person battle and suddenly called on the brainwave power of the other 2 comrades. His companions also obediently allowed him to lend their power. At the same time, one of the 3 extremely fastidious people stood in the angle of his anti-energy, creating a certain kind of mutual repulsion effect of power. These were all taught by Jia Yan, and after a lot of training and actual combat, the soldiers gradually mastered the skills. The joint fighting methods of Yin and Yang Dao blossomed in this war zone. Get out of my way. The venerable being who was about to brag slapped the half-star strong man in the face and suddenly collided head-on with him. In a head-on collision of energy without tricks, no one would think that there is any possibility that a venerable level could compete with a semi-star level. But the actual situation made everyone present stunned. The first team from Jia Yan's army actually resisted the attack of a star and a half without any tricks. How can this be? The eyes of the half-star level also solidified. He has always known that Jia Yan's troops have strong combat capabilities, and their joint combat skills are even more amazing, with terrifying combat capabilities, but he seems to have never heard that any squad in Jia Yan's troops has the ability to cross ranks. But the three-man venerable level team in front of him actually worked together to block his attack. Could it be that they are elite members of Jia Yan's team? Haha, senior, your attack is not enough. Let's watch our counterattack. These three venerable level beings were originally worried about whether their first attack against a half-star level would be effective, but seeing that the first blow was fended off without any tricks, they completely relaxed. Heartbroken. Boom. The three of them seemed to have suddenly changed their positions. The creature in the negative position just now ran to the front and aimed at the semi-star with a claw. Originally, for the venerable level, given a few courages, they would not dare to take the initiative to deal with half the star level, because the venerable level is the venerable level, and they would not be able to deal with a creature of a higher level, let alone someone with sufficient strength. Not enough. The pressure of that strong man alone was not so easy to resist. However, the members of Jia Yan's unit are different. Because there are already several teams of members of Jia Yan's unit who have fought across ranks in the past, so the entire members of Jia Yan's unit have a firm belief that they may not be strong when alone, but if they and their close comrades arrived in a battlefield. If they joined forces, let alone the pressure of the strong, they would not necessarily lose even if they fought against a strong one level above them. Under this concept, none of the soldiers in Jia Yan's army were too afraid of high-level creatures. At this time, it was also an extremely typical example. I saw these three venerable level, negative position transitions. Smooth, not afraid at all that the opponent is a creature one level stronger than them. Therefore, the Trinity, defense and attack, all use the combined efforts of three people, and it is not the feeling of 3 and 1 added together, but even the effect of the multiplication of 3 and 3. This fighting power is not only fighting power, but also firm belief plays a role in it. I don't believe it anymore. The semi-star level existence's continuous attacks had no effect, and his ferocity suddenly aroused. Against a group of venerable level beings, he still didn't believe that he couldn't win. It's a pity that if the battle was between the three sages and him, maybe if he persisted, he might still have a chance to win. But the problem is that this is a battlefield. Is Jia Yan's squad more than just this one? Bang! When this half-star class man got up and was about to fight a fierce battle with the three masters from Jia Yan's army, a small group of Jia Yanbu's master class men came behind him. They didn't even look at them. A wave of brainwave power bombarded Duodu. Despicable. The half-star was shaken all over, and then, extremely unwillingly, he slowly fell down with half of his body blown to pieces. Despicable? You think it's a one-on-one battle between strong men? How can your IQ survive to a half-star level? You are simply a fool. The venerable level man who had been helped by his comrade in arms nodded to the team of comrades who were rushing to rescue him. Then he turned around and looked at the friendly soldiers who had been rescued by the three of him. Haha, everyone, we met again after a few hours. How about it? I didn't lie to you, I am a serious member of Jia Yan's army. Are you satisfied with this combat capability? Ha 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 ha, let me just say that when Your Excellency said you were a member of Jia Yan's army, I thought you were different. Now that I see it, it is indeed the case. Your Excellency, I really appreciate your help. There was a noble level soldier on the other side, who could be considered a bachelor. After hearing this voice, he quickly jumped up and praised the soldiers of Jia Yan's army who had been insulted by them. Yes, I told them before, you will definitely not lie. After all, you don't look like a liar. I really want to thank you for saving my life. Several other people also hurriedly gave up. Well, see you tonight. We still have combat missions to perform. If there is any danger, remember to call me. We will come over to help you as long as it does not affect our mission. The soldier from Jia Yan's unit nodded calmly, and then flew away from here together with the two comrades beside him. Ha ha ha, it's so exciting. Brothers, did you see the expressions on their faces just now? Ha ha ha, they laughed at me last night, and now they're back like this. It makes me laugh to death. The expression of the soldier from Jia Yan's army who left suddenly turned into a maniacal laugh. He couldn't hide it, and even the master temperament he had just pretended changed. Hey, don't be too complacent. Just carry out the next task well. We are a little slow. Okay, anyway, I feel good this time. Let me know that when we join Jia Yan's army, it's really a change. In the past, I was bullied by others in the game, so I was bullied, because in reality, I am also a bully. Bow. Yes, it is our blessing to join Jia Yan's army and be taught by Master Jia Yan personally. Unfortunately, Master Jia Yan's Yin and Yang Dao has not officially accepted disciples. If he starts teaching, I think I will be the first one. I am willing to pay a certain price to join in. Hey, the first one to join? I won't agree, little brother. Let's fight for the first position. Anyway, I have to join. I can see that this Yin and Yang Dao is definitely an earth-shattering good thing. If we are lucky enough to be able to learn the full version, which will surely be of great help to our future promotions. Yes, I heard that there was a young creature in Gongjuling. Lord Jia Yan personally took her as a preparatory disciple, and even gave her a secret book. I am envious when I think about it. When will it be our turn to have this kind of luck? Come on, alas. Stop talking, there is another combat order from above, execute it quickly. Yes. Boom boom boom. Earth-shaking battle explosions were heard one after another. Oh, the number 3 team over there did quite well. They were able to deal with 1.5 stars. Although they won in the end by cooperating with other teams, if they keep fighting, they will definitely win. Jia Yan was in the high space and had no intention of taking action himself. He just watched the battle below. The incident with the number 3 venerable level team was just a small unexpected episode for him, because to him, almost every team in the current army had a slight possibility. Looking for Book's Garden can kill enemies by leaping up. So when he saw a small team that could leap up and kill the enemy, it wasn't worth his overly shocked expression. At most, he just paid attention. Of course, if this happened to a semi-star team and they jointly killed a star, he would pay close attention to it. After all, the levels of combat effectiveness are different. If such a team appears, it will have a negative impact on future combat effectiveness. But it has great influence. If a group of star-level beings killed a galaxy-level being, it would be something that would shock even Jia Yan for a while. After all, it was a star-level being, even if they just joined forces to deal with the weakest star-level star. It is also something to be happy about, and even all the surrounding troops will spread this news. It is a pity that so far, although there have been stellar-level teams capable of resisting the galaxy level, there has not been any small team that can kill the galaxy level. Even if a confrontation can hold back a galaxy-level fighter, it is still an incredible achievement, but for Jia Yan's troops, this matter has become the norm, and there is nothing to be happy about. High-speed text hand-typing chapter list of Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2282. Should I give the order to use explosives to those star-level teams, causing them to jump up the ranks, kill a few star-level teams, and increase the influence and reputation of my Jia Yan unit. Jia Yan just thought about whether he should make his army more famous, and then he immediately smiled and shook his head in denial. No, my Jia Yan unit is already famous enough. If it continues to be famous, the problem will be big. Don't I think there are not enough things? If a higher official who controls the power comes and asks me to hand over the yin and yang dao, or if you ask me to help them refine explosives for the army, should I agree or not? This is very possible. Jia Yan thought about it and gave up the idea of letting the star class detonate explosives. Besides, this kind of explosives was also very precious to him. If he used one less one, it would be better to save it for the future, which would be more important. For local use. The enemy's troops, more than 2,000 people, had some courage at first. They dared to fight back against our Jia Yan troops, but now they have turned into scurrying. Lord Jia Yan, the soldiers you have trained are indeed extraordinary of. Like Jia Yan, those who stayed at high altitude to observe the battle situation were the three mid-level galactic beings. They are the absolute main force, and together, they can deal with a fighting type at the top of the mid-level galaxy without Jia Yan appearing. In this battlefield, there is no opponent at all, so they are regarded as with the power of sitting at the level, it is easy not to take action. Haha, please stop flattering me. This is where you are. Don't forget, my ideas are more than that. Defeat the Domain Lord. Several powerful people above the middle level of the galaxy were speechless because none of them had really thought about this possibility in their hearts. Jia Yan looked at these subordinates and sighed silently. With this kind of mentality, let alone the fact that they don't have that kind of strength now, even if they are trained to the extent that they can deal with the Territory Lord, I am afraid that they will all be defeated if they really face a Territory Lord. After all, when fighting, the strong one's will mindset is very important. Jia Yan knew that he wanted to boost his morale, but he didn't know what to do. The fear of the Domain Master creatures was innate to every northern giant, or every creature in the galaxy, and he didn't even dare to say that he didn't have it in his bones. He no longer said anything, but silently observed the war. In this battle, there is actually no need to observe anything. It is impossible for every battle to be a trap for Jia Yan's troops. That way the enemy would be too boring. They would just plan to sum up Jia Yan's troops when they have nothing to do. They are not so petty. After all, although the current Jia Yan troops are a serious problem, but far from a serious concern. Therefore, the current battle is indeed an encounter. With the enemy and a friendly army camouflaging and covering up their signals, it is normal for an unexpected battle to occur. On the grassland at the moment, an unexpected battle broke out. More than half of the battles that took place were such battles. Jia Yan's troops happened to be marching on one side. They received our signal for help and ran to help. It was normal. Everything was just as Jia Yan thought. Although this enemy force had a large number of people, under the attack force of Jia Yan's troops, they were unable to even make a counterattack. Sir, the enemy army has begun to collapse, and the overall situation has been decided. Well, you should record the meritorious teams. Oh, by the way, the venerable level team on the flank who was the first to charge earlier will be rewarded with some training materials. Good. Jia Yan was not too surprised and just ordered to reward the members of his own troops who participated in this battle based on their merits. After that, Jia Yan didn't waste much time. He even communicated with the leader of the friendly forces who rescued the siege, all on the chariot. After politely rejecting the other party's attempt to pull Jia Yan's troops and communicate with the troops, Jia Yan leading Jia Yan's troops, who had already finished the battle and had reorganized, they left the war zone while it was getting dark again at noon. This is Jia Yan's army. It's amazing. It's really powerful. That kind of joint fighting method. Everyone is a key role in the team. The three of them are one. The combat power of joining forces can almost kill the enemy at a higher level. What's this? I just saw it. There was a team of venerables who couldn't defeat a stronger enemy of half-star level. As a result, this team called another team around them, and the two teams of 6 people combined instantly. They became a small team, and the 6 of them joined forces and actually killed all the half-star level beings in that half-star level who might not be weak in an instant. Horrible. Among the friendly troops who were rescued one by one, those who were familiar with the previous soldiers from Jia Yan's troops all looked at each other in confusion. Unexpectedly, that guy is really from Jia Yan's army. We were laughing at him last night. Come on, this is our mistake. Let's go back to the game later and apologize to this gentleman. This incident also warns us not to bully new players in the future. Even in the game, it is possible to get kicked. Several soldiers had mournful expressions on their faces, as if they were afraid of being resented by the soldier from Jia Yan's unit. Of course, they didn't know that the soldier from Jia Yan's army who rescued them was also their friend in the game, and he was now as happy as a spring breeze. If you brag enough, you won't be looked down upon in the game. Haha, it's so cool. These people look down on me in the game and think my fighting ability is not strong enough. You see, this is my strength. You kid, why are you laughing? I've given you the command for so long. I didn't expect you to become the center of our team. It's quite impressive. It's better for you to be the center in the future. No, it's still you from now on. We are the real teammates. It's not like you don't know what I'm capable of, eh? While the soldiers in this small group were talking, they received a communication from above. When the 3 of them turned on the communicator, they were all surprised and shocked. Wow, they actually gave our team a reward. Are our eyes dazzled? Ha ha ha, we are really embarrassed this time. I didn't expect that the credit has increased so much for us. Boy, you said you shouldn't be the center, why don't you? If there is a good thing, you can take it, or you can try it. Do I really have talent? Well, let's try it. The soldier looked excited. Little did he know that an act of wanting to brag would actually allow him to gain the position of the center. When I get back to the game, I want to express my gratitude to those friends in the game. Jia Yan didn't know that his decision made one of his soldiers so happy. Even if you know it, you won't have any unique feelings. After all, to the strong, the weak are just numbers and combat power, and do not count in the strong sense of being a worthy person. It is a very realistic idea, but it is also a universal value, because in the field of vision of a strong person, there are often thousands of creatures. If everyone pays attention to them, talking will probably exhaust a strong person to death. So ignoring it is normal. Lord Jia Yan, I wonder what our plans are next. What about arrangements? Let's continue wandering for a while. In this grassland area, our army's military strength is still weaker than the opponent's. Moreover, even the strong ones are a little weaker. So our Jia Yan army will wander in this area for a while. It's a good time. Help us solve the problem of the enemy's strength and our weakness, and when it's almost balanced, we can wander to another war zone. Okay. Then I'll take my leave. Bang. The door of the chariot was closed, and there were only the front driver and Jia Yan in the Nyo chariot where Jia Yan was. The driver cannot hear sounds from behind. Technology is a technology creation. Even the driver's side has a closed room or something with excellent sound insulation, so there is no impact on both sides at all. Jia Yan was silent for a moment, then returned to his small environment and slowly crawled down the mosquito body. I have to say that although the small space is not that comfortable, it has a unique sense of warmth after living there for a long time. It seems that I am still not used to rich and luxurious people. I am satisfied with such a small space. Jia Yan smiled slightly, then shook his head. He knew that this was not the time to express so many emotions. For him, there were many problems that needed to be solved and conceived. And Jia Yan has been thinking about whether it is necessary for him to fight for the power of the master in this northern giant. There is actually no standard answer to this question. He came to the North Superstar to improve himself and then reach the territory lord level. So, in fact, logically speaking, it is not necessary to help the master's forces to fight the war, because it will waste his time. But the problem cannot be viewed this way. If this war does not last that long, or if he gains power faster than imagined, then he will be able to grab a lot of benefits in a short period of time. For him, this matter not only will it not cause him to waste time, on the contrary, it may also allow him to quickly advance on his path to becoming a territory lord. Even if it is possible, I can ask some domain masters from the master power to explain to me the key points of the path of a domain master. Although the journey of 1 or 2 domain masters may not be that much for me to learn from. The effect is good, but if the experience of many people is gathered, it will probably be of great help to my promotion. Jia Yan thought about this, and the key point was whether he could wait for this help, or whether it was worth it. So there is no fixed answer. If the progress of the war speeds up, the master's power is not destroyed, and he has gained a lot of military merits, I am afraid that this will happen soon. But on the contrary, if the progress of the war is very slow and he has not earned enough military merits, then this event will not happen immediately, and his desire to visit the domain master creature will also slow down. In this way, I have to seize the next many opportunities. I am afraid of not having a goal in everything. Once I have a goal, I will seize the opportunity and move towards the goal. It is possible to succeed. Jia Yan had some vague ideas before, but now he has fixed his goal on wanting the guidance of a strong person, then the problem will be easily solved. He seized the opportunity to communicate with the domain lord's creatures and asked carefully. Presumably with his current status, many domain lords would be willing to give him some suggestions and insights. As for whether he is hiding something or not, it is up to Jia Yan himself to judge. Very good. For example, I can ask the 2 territory lords in the army now. They should give me this face, especially General Jushu. He will definitely be willing to give me some advice. He gave me some advice last time. I've just said a few words. I'll sort out my language next time and ask more questions. Jia Yan sorted out all the things he wanted to do and the questions he wanted to ask. Soon, for Jia Yan, a very perfect question had to be decided, and he began to compose it. What he had to do was simple and necessary. A creature that is not a native of the North Star needs a certain amount of motivation to do things. Otherwise, generally speaking, he would not have such great perseverance to help a force fight. Probably this is also the reason why many outsiders left Beijing Superstar, because entering Beijing Superstar, especially if they go to a chaotic place, they cannot avoid being involved in fighting incidents. If there is no more suitable reason, it is impossible to have the will to fight, so the only way to leave this land of disputes is to leave. After figuring out the joints, Jia Yan couldn't help but laugh at himself. In fact, haven't similar troubles been bothering him all the time? After coming out of the earth, he has been fighting for various forces, people, etc., but he always feels that he does not have any real will to fight. It turns out that now he has thought clearly, it is not because he is used to fighting, but because none of these processes gave him a real will to fight. It's only when I create my own power and compete for certain objects that are useful to me that I have the motivation to fight. It seems that I am not exempt from this. I am just a selfish strong man. Jia Yan smiled. He didn't think that his mentality would be so bad. After all, in the universe, if you want to help every time there is a war, you will die one day. Besides, it is impossible to do it. There are many places of dispute in the universe. How could you help selflessly everywhere? Jia Yan's thinking is often very divergent. In the chariot, while refining the energy of the blood-sucking leech creature in his body, he thought about so many things, and then strengthened some of his ideas. That's right, he knew that he couldn't let the fame and fortune before him block his vision. If he indulged in the applause and cheers and became really willing to work for the power of the master, even risking his life, then that would be the real thing. The fool, this is not the earth, and he does not need to fight to the death in order to control the power. It's a coincidence. When Jia Yan was determined and thinking about the future, the adjutant came with an urgent communication request. Lord Jia Yan, the headquarters has sent a message confirming the battle achievements, and it's General Jushu personally calling. Wouldn't you like to answer it personally? High-speed text hand-typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2283. Oh. Is it Senior Jushu? Very good. I'll pick it up myself. I don't know how much time he will have next, haha. Isn't this just someone giving me a pillow if I feel sleepy? Jia Yan determined his own path, and the giant tree came to his door. Since I have sacrificed my life for you in so many battles and played such a big role, I think I won't refuse if I ask you some questions, right? Do not have time? Oh, it turns out that our Jia Yan unit is this kind of role in your eyes. Well, in the next battle, don't blame us for exerting corresponding combat effectiveness. Hello, Jia Yan. When the message was connected, Jia Yan found that the other person had almost the same feeling towards him in his eyes. Just like Jia Yan's eyes on him are the same. Hello, Senior Jushu, needless to mention the credit for this battle. Isn't it normal for our Jia Yan troops to do such a thing? Jia Yan said with a smile, wanting to get to the topic quickly. Yes, your Jia Yan troops have really exceeded my expectations time and time again. Tell me what kind of rewards you want this time, or I can give you some at will. The giant tree creature also laughed. I am not the master of other people's affairs. It is up to you, sir, but mine, Senior Jushu, I want you to personally explain to me some of your insights on your promotion to Territory Lord. You know, what the creatures at the top of the middle level of the galaxy want is to be promoted to Territory Lord. Jia Yan paused, and then spoke with his most pious attitude. Hey, Jia Yan, you want me to explain? Are you sure this is enough? After all, you and I are colleagues. I would train you and chat with you whenever I find an opportunity. Besides, everyone's path to becoming a domain master is actually fundamentally different. Maybe you can't find any inspiration here. The giant tree creature is an honest existence. It is a species like vegetation. No matter what it does or what it says, it is relatively honest and straightforward, so its words are trustworthy. Senior Jushu, let's put it this way, my promotion may be different from that of ordinary domain lord creatures, so I have gathered a lot of promotion experience and knowledge of domain lord creatures. Even if one person gives me little by little guidance, I will thank you. If you feel that my mission is beyond this scope, you can also introduce me to another military domain master, which will be a big help to me. Jia Yan spoke very seriously, and bowed deeply to the senior territory lord. Well, okay, Jia Yan, since you said so, then I will tell you about my path as a territory lord, but I can't guarantee whether it will be useful to you, and you don't have to be afraid. I don't have time. I will talk until this time tomorrow. Even if you have a small question, I will say it. Of course, the matter of another domain lord needs to be looked at by himself. I will ask it for you. Ask, but I think he will also be willing to help you. What surprised Jia Yan was that the senior Jushu in the communication was not as resistant as Jia Yan thought. He didn't even need Jia Yan to tell the time, but the other party himself said a relatively long time. You must know that a day is extremely precious to a general on the battlefield, but people say that they are willing to explain a day and a night to Jia Yan, which can be described as an extremely sincere approach. But, Jia Yan, you also know that nothing happens without a reason. You must have your own use for allowing me, a domain master, to do this. For example, your ability to command and lead troops, as well as its effect on the current battlefield, etc., these are all reasons for me to help you. However, among them, there is another bigger reason, which is that I am willing to help you, and even more powerful people are willing to help you. Reason. The giant tree spoke in a booming voice, but every sentence made others feel sincere. Jia Yan couldn't help but believe it. After hearing half of what he said, Jia Yan couldn't help but ask, I wonder what the adult said is the biggest reason why you are willing to help me. Jia Yan's question sounded natural to Jushu. After all, Jia Yan still didn't know why he was willing to help. If Jia Yan didn't understand the reason why a domain lord was willing to help, I'm afraid everyone will have trouble sleeping and eating. The giant tree doesn't do things like rising first and then falling, nor does it lie. In short, if Jia Yan asked, he would just say it. It's like this. You may have forgotten that every victory you have on this battlefield is a publicity for your yin and yang dao. It was fine before. After all, you said that your own cultivation path is your own. Talent and the like cannot be taught to others, but now there is evidence to prove that you taught a disciple at Gongjuling. Although according to you, that disciple also had suitable talent. We all believe this, but since if you can come up with the secret book, there is a possibility that others can practice yin and yang tao. For many people, this is the biggest temptation. To be honest, I am also interested in this cultivation technique, but we don't want to use force. After all, we are all territory lords. From our perspective, this kind of cultivation technique still has many limitations. Therefore, ordinary territory lords will not use force on you, but it does not rule out that we want to do this. When I take a look at the means, I will exchange them with you for some insignificant things, including the incident I explained to you. I see. After hearing this, Jia Yan suddenly became enlightened. No wonder, why did the giant tree creature agree to tell him about the experience of the domain lord's path so straightforwardly? It turned out that he also wanted to see his yin and yang dao. Actually, Jia Yan is not saying that it is completely impossible to hand over yin-yang dao, but he was unwilling to promote it in the past because of the impact and so on. It's not that you are unwilling to reveal your yin and yang to a specific target person. This is where Jia Yan's cleverness lies. Even if he hands over the yin and yang dao, he will not hand over a version that is more suitable for practice. After all, he has had many versions of the yin and yang dao in his life, and there are many versions of them. For most organisms, there is not much reference and research significance at all. For example, the Earthling version is both simple and suitable only for Earthlings. If it were given to the creatures in the North Star, they would probably be able to understand the essence of yin and yang dao, but it would be difficult for them to practice it or even decipher it and how to deal with it. In this way, he not only allows these powerful people to gain something, but also avoids the risk of being targeted, and can even exchange for the insights or benefits of certain domain master creatures. Wouldn't he kill two birds with one stone? I'm not lying to you, this is what you want, and I didn't say I would come up with the most complete version. Jia Yan thought about this, and then smiled slightly. Okay, Lord Jushu, if you have any ideas about my simple self-created path, I am willing to hand it over to you for viewing. Of course, if you can give me some suggestions, I will also be grateful. When the domain master creature watches his yin and yang dao, he may actually have a certain personal understanding. It may be beneficial for him to further improve his yin and yang dao, so Jia Yan does not resist. That's good, come on, if you have any questions about domain lords, you can start asking me. If not, Let me talk about my own promotion process and some of the things I reflected on during or after my promotion. The giant tree creature got straight to the point and was always so quick-tongued. When Jia Yan agreed to the request, he nodded with a smile and began to speak. Both sides were less vigilant, because for both the giant tree creature and Jia Yan, this was just an exchange of information, it did not involve items, and it was not even a secret. The promotion of a territory lord creature cannot be said to be a secret. There are even many territory lord creatures who will write their own promotions into books, and add a lot of speculations, etc., and they will sell very well. And Jia Yan's yin and yang dao is not too secret, because if it were such a secret, Jia Yan would not take it out and share it with a large number of soldiers. Therefore, both parties did not worry about what the other party would do without respecting the spirit of the contract, and started the transaction directly. It's like this. I was already at the peak of the middle level of the galaxy, and I was trapped for more than 850 years, it even lasted for so long that I felt desperate. One day, the giant tree creature spoke, and as soon as Jia Yan started listening, he knew that his insights were definitely different from his own, and there would not be much reference significance. Because the positions of both sides are completely different. Trapped for more than 850 years? Sorry, Jia Yan is probably less than 100 years old this year. I really can't understand that you have been stuck in the same realm for more than 800 years, okay. It turned out to be the case later. What Jia Yan heard about the promotion process of giant tree creatures was almost all consistent with aging, resisting fate, rejecting death, etc. When he was finally promoted, he felt unwilling to live in it. Leaving this world early means not wanting to die of old age. For the young Jia Yan, this was completely incomprehensible. Thank you, Lord Jeshu. Let me think about it. Please wait a moment. If you have any questions, I will ask them right away. After Jia Yan finished listening to the chattering giant tree, he began to ponder. Jeshu's promotion process can be said to be filled with his strong personal emotions, followed by a lot of hard work, etc., and finally succeeded, which is inseparable from the intensity of emotions and hard work. Jia Yan said that he did not understand the promotion of old creatures, but if he had to force himself to understand it, he would not be unable to understand it. After all, he was an old man to the creatures on Earth, especially with the younger generations on Earth, such as his son. Grandchildren, maybe even the grandchildren have grown up and have boyfriends and girlfriends now. From this point of view, it is not impossible for him to understand the unique feelings of the giant tree. After thinking for a long time, Jia Yan looked up again, with a hint of realization in his eyes. Next, Jia Yan asked a lot of questions, all about promotion, some of which involved the specific promotion process. This made the giant tree feel a little shaken, because certain questions were impossible to ask unless someone had personally experienced that kind of enlightenment. In other words, Jia Yandu has already taken a long step towards the road of becoming a territory lord and has traveled a great distance. Is it really possible for this kid to step into the path of a territory lord? Alas, the road to becoming a territory lord is still too difficult. Even if there is a hint of it, it is impossible for anyone to have a 100% chance of fully stepping into it. In fact, some of the words Jia Yan asked were not his own insights. It was something he slowly realized after experiencing so many battles with domain lord creatures. Especially when fighting the black sheep, the opponent had just been successfully promoted and was still in the process of becoming a half-domain lord. Fighting him at that time was almost equivalent to fighting a creature who could reveal countless information about domain lords anytime and anywhere. The process of fighting. Jia Yan probably understood as much as possible at that time, so the questions he asked now made the giant tree creature feel that he had really experienced so much. In fact, there is not that much insight at all. Of course, asking now shows that Jia Yan is really thinking about those questions. If nothing else, If he asks more domain owners and answers some of the doubts in his heart, he might be able to get these things. Everything becomes Jia Yan's own. And when Jia Yan and General Jusha took the time to communicate after the war, there was something strange emerging from somewhere they didn't expect. For example, on the internet, a certain soldier creature posted a hot post on the forum on the benefits of being an online friend with a soldier from Jia Yan's unit. He saved our lives. The soldier who posted this post was the soldier who had been rescued by the soldier from Jia Yan's unit. He personally witnessed that the teammates who made friends with them on the internet and then formed a team were actually like real saviors. Appeared when they were all desperate, saved their lives, and was extremely handsome. Together with 2 other teammates of Jia Yan's unit, he killed 1.5 stars, and he became the member of Jia Yan's unit. And an absolutely devout believer in that internet comrade. The purpose of the post is obvious, to show off that he has an online comrade in Jia Yan's army. It's just that the process before being rescued, has changed into a soldier of their team. From the first time I met the member of Jia Yan's team, I felt that he was stepping on auspicious clouds and exuded from his body the aura of the protagonist. The group of soldiers bowed their heads and bowed, and then received the courtesy of this good friend. The 2 sides got along very well. Finally, they could not resist, and they sent a message for help. The soldier from Jia Yan's army heard it and came to their heads. Provided rescue. I'm afraid Jia Yan's soldier, the soldier who was ostracized by them and then heard their rescue information and wanted to run over to rescue him, will feel that the world is upside down when he sees this post. After all, he had been squeezed out, so he had the idea of showing off his fighting power in front of these online friends, otherwise he would not care about these people. Of course, since the soldier creature who posted this article is praising the soldier of Jia Yan's army, and then also praising Jia Yan's army, he thinks that those who can enter Jia Yan's army are the aces in the army. Even if this Jia Yan's army, the soldiers of the IWA division, saw the post and probably wouldn't refute it. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2284. Things always need to be spruced up, so he just treats it as a fart and lets it go. However, after the post became popular, the soldier who posted it did not expect to encounter the military internet picket. This department followed the clue and found him on the internet. We want to ask specifically, is the combat power of Jia Yan's troops really so powerful? The internet picket department's inquiry was very simple, which surprised the soldier who posted the post to show off. However, he still answered honestly. In just a few words, he described the strength of Jia Yan's troops as extremely powerful. After all, he was bragging. I see. Thank you for your cooperation. We will consider rewarding you for this information. The other end. Within the so-called network picket department, there were several strong men with good strength, or should be said, beings with the ability to change the shape of this battlefield, who were silently listening to the description and words of the soldier. Okay, now it's clear that Jia Yan's energy is indeed what we need. I suggest going over to discuss with him immediately. I also agree, but his identity and origin is a problem. Since he was born on an alien planet, our excuses are not good. For example, the last time we obtained the ancestral belongings of that strong man for our power, it was about us. The master's power raised him up, so that existence would have no excuse. But Jia Yan grew up on an alien planet and has nothing to do with my master's power. So, what should we say? Haha, we naturally have ways to treat outside visitors, and Jia Yan is a smart man, so he will definitely know how to do it. Inside this so-called network picket center, it turns out that it is not ordinary operators who are operating the affairs just now, but these few powerful people are operating here. After they ask some things about Jia Yan's troops, they left the network picket center and then boarded several flying cars. The direction they were flying was surprisingly the grassland where Jia Yan and the others were. At the same time, Jia Yan didn't know that these powerful men were discussing things about him. They were just tirelessly asking questions about the giant tree creatures, and then told some of their own conjectures. Many of the questions are so obscure and difficult to understand that even an average biological expert would feel dizzy. But Jia Yan enjoyed it very much. Even the giant tree creature felt a little uncomfortable when Jia Yan talked about it, but he himself didn't feel conscious at all. Okay, Jia Yan, if there are no questions, let's end the current issues. I think these questions will take you a few days to digest. You said you want another general to help you answer the questions. I will also do this. If you discuss it with him, it won't be a problem, just wait for my news. Is it over? Yes, it's been so long. Thank you, Chief Jushu. I'll leave the matter to you for the other chief. Jia Yan was still in a trance, but when he heard that the giant tree creature was unwilling to explain any more, he suddenly nodded sadly. After all, the other party is still the commander of an army. He keeps holding people here talking about cultivation, which delays the military plane. He, Jia Yan, cannot bear the responsibility. After turning off the communication, Jia Yan was in a strange half-dream and half-awake mode. He was trying hard to digest the information he had just received. This information is very important to Jia Yan. After all, a territory lord did not hold anything back when explaining his promotion process, as well as some of his mentality and insights after his promotion, especially the mysterious state before his promotion. For Jia Yan, the future is destined to be some kind of help when he is promoted. Of course, right now, he still doesn't know which of these are the most helpful, because it's hard to tell which ones are the key to this kind of thing. Therefore, Jia Yan needs to look back slowly and go through everything he has said in his mind. He cannot miss even a word or a change in tone. Maybe these things will be used in critical situations in the future. It might even be a huge help to Jia Yan when he was promoted. But the information is still a little bit sparse and fragmented. Even if it is pretty good, it is still fanciful to want to use this to learn from my own path as a domain lord. After a long time, Jia Yan exhaled. Then he looked at the time and found that before he knew it, it was already the afternoon of the next day. He chatted with Mr. Jushu for a whole day, and he recovered for most of the day, reaching the current time. Yes, it's really not that unusual. Jia Yan's troops did not dispatch today. Although there are many battlefields around, Jia Yan will never send anyone out without giving orders. So, I roughly summarized the path of the territory lord, and found that from the sparse information, they actually also involved some great principles of the universe. In other words, when I was in another gigantic world, I heard that those magical cultivation methods mentioned are actually common in our ordinary world. Do they all involve the level of Tao in the end? The great principles of the universe are actually very mysterious. Science has scientific principles and can explain the universe, and on the road of cultivation, there will also be principles of cultivation. Under the galaxy level, or below the star level, cultivation is just cultivation. Many races and creatures just regard cultivation as ordinary cultivation. But when you reach the star level and up, when you practice, you have to face certain principles that cannot be explained by practice, which are the Tao as mentioned by the ancient Chinese on earth. This is a magical and mysterious explanation. But in fact, between cultivation and science, there is indeed a kind of miraculous explanation of things that is unclear, but really exists. For example, science in science. An ancient person once said that everything in the universe, all can be explained using mathematics, and all can be calculated using mathematical formulas. Although no scientist has verified this statement, even if it is placed on an alien planet with extremely advanced technology, but mathematical formulas have even been developed to the level of cultivation, which shows that there are indeed traces in the entire universe. In other words, when practicing, in the end, they all reach the same goal through different paths. Even if Jia Yan has been to another gigantic world, the cultivation there may be related to the cultivation in the galaxy. It's a pity that I am in another world and don't have much time to investigate the cultivation secrets there. If I were given more time and stronger strength, I might be able to collect the cultivation secrets of that world. So that my current path as a territory lord has some excellent examples from other perspectives. Maybe my path as a territory lord will make faster progress. Jia Yan was silent for a while, but then completely abandoned this whim. Don't say anything else, just say that if he had the chance now, if he were allowed to return to that world, I'm afraid Jia Yan wouldn't even be willing to go back. Because even judging from the current strength, the strength of that world is probably extremely strong, and the domain masters may not be less than the North Star, not to mention there are too many places that are still unexplored for Jia Yan. Maybe they will all there may be existences like those in the central star field of the Milky Way that exist above the domain lords. Therefore, it is extremely irrational to go into trouble with the current strength. Maybe after I am promoted to domain lord, it will not be too late to go there. After all, there is a new cultivation system there. I can at least go there and find some clues and inspiration, which may make my journey to the later stages of the galaxy smoother. Jia Yan thought for a while, then smiled bitterly and shook his head. Even the territory lord level has stuck on me, so why do I think of going to the later stages of the galaxy again? Am I stupid? Sir Jia Yan, there is a message from the military pickets. They told us to wait for the investigation where we are and not to go out to fight in the next few days. Suddenly, outside the chariot, a voice with brainwave power came from the deputy. Huh? Picket? Is it the kind of law enforcement department that only inspects the military? Actually came to investigate our army? We don't have anything worthy of their investigation, but we are not afraid of shadows. Let them come. I just have free time these days. Just let us practice well. Yes. Jia Yan gave a calm order, and the deputy responded. For the people in Jia Yan's army, there was really nothing to worry about when the people from the picket troops came. They just asked them to wait where they were, which made everyone a little unhappy because of the situation in the past few days. Time will cause a lot of military exploits to be lost. It's a pity that the picket department's words are like the law, and it is impossible for them not to listen. Anyway, since the establishment of Jia Yan's army, they have been in battles and battlefields. If they want to do anything illegal, they don't have time to do anything, so everyone has nothing to worry about. After all, these beings all understand that Jia Yan's army there is no way there is anything worthy of their investigation. It is too simple and too transparent. Jia Yan and the others didn't know at all that these so-called visitors from the picket department did not come from the picket department in this grassland at all, but came directly from outside the grassland. Moreover, their purpose is not to drink, but not to investigate itself. However, the arrival of this military order also gave Jia Yan and the members of Jia Yan's army some more time to stabilize. Jia Yan himself was able to continue to digest energy and think carefully about his path as a territory lord. As for the soldiers of Jia Yan's army, they had more time to carefully consider the coordination of yin and yang Tao techniques. I believe that in a few days, after Jia Yan's troops come out of the border, there will be a major change. But there is a premise, that is, the visitors from the picket department will not affect the personnel of Jia Yan's army. Otherwise, if Jia Yan himself leaves the army, then this powerful army may fall apart in an instant. In this way, while Jia Yan was waiting until the second day, the giant tree senior was quite efficient and pulled another domain lord creature in the grassland army, who was also a commander on the same level as the giant tree creature, into the communication in front of the device. This is a monster that looks like an octopus. Yeah, Jia Yan, I understand the reason behind Jushu's words. You want to collect a lot of information about the domain lord, and you want to try to find out whether you can find your own way as a domain lord, right? Yeah, I understand, Jia Yan, this principle is very difficult. Come on, let me teach you. Eh, eh, you are a relatively outstanding young man, I am optimistic about you. Eh, eh, let me teach you. Oh, what did I just say? Are you here? Ha ha ha, I'm a talker, don't scare you, come on, let's continue. Unexpectedly, this domain master creature was unexpected by Jia Yan. He was a talkative being with a memory as short as a fish. After reluctantly listening to the teachings for most of the day, Jia Yan quickly made an excuse to disconnect his communication. He thought about the pitiful look in the giant tree creature's eyes when it looked at Jia Yan when he knew that he wanted to ask another territory lord to teach him, and he understood that the giant tree senior might have known that this would be the result. But even so, I have gained another piece of experience as a domain master creature. I believe that this kind of experience will become more and more abundant. In the future, I will gain a lot and finally break through the domain master. Jia Yan doesn't pay attention to whether he is a talkative or a talkative. After all, the other party, besides talking more and being repetitive, also really gave him a lot of suggestions and ideas, especially when Jia Yan thought about it. Such a talkative, is it possible that his ability to be promoted may have played a role in his ability to talk? In this way, with mixed thoughts, even though there was not much fighting or even giving instructions to his subordinate soldiers, Jia Yan still lived a very fulfilling life. 3 days passed by easily. Finally, the appointed day arrived. Lord Jia Yan, there are several chariots flying from the horizon. Their signal is the signal of the military pickets. Should we let them come? Let it go, count the days, it's time for the picket troops to arrive. Jia Yan heard the adjutant's rumors, then put down his training and research matters, came outside the chariot, and personally waited for the arrival of the picket troops. You must know that the pickets in the Master's power are almost similar to the pickets of the Earth's military. They can perform general legal enforcement functions. For military non-commissioned officers, is extremely threatening. So even though Jia Yan didn't feel very welcome to the so-called picket group that suddenly came, he still showed an accepting attitude. Besides, even if you don't accept it, you can't stop them from coming, so it's better to have a good attitude and avoid having to make excuses for repairs later. Boom. Boom boom. When several tanks, from far to near, flew into the encirclement of Jia Yan's troops without any worry, and then slowly stopped under the watchful eyes of a group of soldiers. As the strongest person in the entire army, Jia Yan was slightly startled, and then his expression became solemn. After being at Biostar for so long, he has gradually mastered how to see certain aspects of strength without contact. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2285. For example, in these chariots, Jia Yan already had a clue of the strength of the coming ones. So strong. Could it be that he is the territory lord? He was shocked, and there was a hint of surprise in his heart. In this grassland, the strongest people in our army are the two generals, namely the giant tree and the senior octopus. However, when these two communicated with him before, they did not say that they would come in person. But why, among the people in the so-called picket troops who came here, some actually gave him the feeling of a domain lord. Moreover, it seems that there is more than one domain aura. Was it a mistake? After all, he is North Star, so it is normal for him not to understand the strength of a strong person. Bang. Originally in a negative mood, Jia Yan's heart suddenly twitched when one of the chariots that felt like a domain master stopped, and a strong man from the army flew out of it. What the hell? It seems that I got it right, this guy actually feels like a territory lord? Jia Yan was shocked. Because for him, it is not that he has never seen a territory lord, especially within the North Star, there are not to mention an overwhelming number of territory lords, but they are definitely not uncommon. But the problem is that there should not be other territory lords in the army that controls the power of this grassland. The territory lord who came this time did not look familiar at all. He was neither a giant tree nor that an octopus creature, but a pangolin-like creature. He didn't know such a domain lord at all. Could it be that my perception is wrong and this is not a territory lord at all? Jia Yan once again felt very confused and disbelieving about his own perception. Accompanying the chariot, two more creatures that looked like domain lords came down. Jia Yan was even more sure that his perception must be wrong. In the entire grassland battlefield, there are only two powerful domain masters. This has made the grassland battlefield smooth sailing. Even if there is a slight disadvantage, the overall situation of the battle has been maintained. And in this case, what does it mean to have three unknown domain masters? It is simply impossible. If you have time, send 3 territory lords to come here to fight against the autumn wind and ask about picketing. Why not come to the grassland to help fight the war? The 3 territory lords, plus the 2 general territory lords of the army, total 5 territory lords. The territory lord overwhelmed the enemy in an instant. In this way, wouldn't it be possible to determine the outcome of the battle in an instant? Jia Yan found it ridiculous that his perception ability was so weak. But what happened next made him feel a little weird. It seems like things are not that simple. Your Excellency, this is Jia Yan, right? We are members of the picket force. We came here from other large areas specifically for you. We are quite busy, so I will keep the story short. Please get in our tank and we can talk slowly. A creature suspected of being a domain lord saw Jia Yan among the army crowd at first sight, and he was very polite and actively invited Jia Yan to their chariot to chat. Jia Yan hesitated for a while, and after his deputy reminded him that this was a common practice in the military, he finally had to get on the opponent's chariot. Since it is a common practice, and this seems to be a domain lord, but it must not be an existence, it should not frame him, right? Jia Yan is already prepared. If something goes wrong, he will tear apart the subspace and escape from the subspace. Although there must be certain means of preventing subspace inside such a detention chariot, it can be used against Jia Yan. In other words, the current subspace methods have long been superb, and coupled with the self-destruction method of matter and antimatter, there should still be a certain chance. Of course, the premise of everything is that these guys are not the real domain lords. Otherwise, if the 3 domain lords together, Jia Yan would really be unable to fly at such a close distance. Puff. After entering the chariot, a group of Jia Yan's troop members were seen outside, vaguely surrounding this small group of chariots. If they did anything wrong, they would launch an attack. After all, for the members of Jia Yan's troops are their pride today. If anyone dares to harm Jia Yan, even if they are so-called picket troops, they will not be polite. Although the military has military laws, sometimes their own laws are more useful for troops fighting in the outside world. At this time, there is no need to talk about the military law of the army, and the foreign emperor will not accept his orders. The voice outside the door suddenly became very weak. The chariot that we entered was called a chariot, but it was actually no different from an ordinary small house. This is also the good treatment that soldiers will enjoy on a technologically advanced planet. Even the soldiers in Jia Yan's army can each be assigned a nice small room in the tank. Jia Yan even has one of his own. The private combat command vehicle looks like a luxurious villa inside. But here, there is a very serious feeling, just like in a court. Jia Yan came to the living room of the chariot, and the pangolin-like creature asked Jia Yan to sit down. And their three creatures, who were suspected of being domain lords, also sat opposite Jia Yan. The four creatures stared at each other for a while. Finally, when the atmosphere reached its highest point, the pangolin creature spoke. Jia Yan? Very good. He is indeed well deserved. Under the watchful eyes of the three major domain masters, he can still have such magnanimity. When Jia Yan heard this, he was confused for a moment, and then there was a loud bang in his head. What? Is it really a domain lord creature, and all three of them? Oh my god. Just now I thought they were not territory lords, but they actually showed a certain amount of unyielding and fighting spirit. Is it too late to take it back now? Why do you still have such a temperament under the jurisdiction of the domain? I don't think you are the domain master at all, okay. We Izun Academy. Jia Yan's somewhat messy aura was noticed by the other party, which made them feel Jia Yan's true thoughts for a moment, and then they couldn't help but smile helplessly. They thought that Jia Yan, this extremely powerful commander, was an outsider. On an alien planet, there was nothing that the territory lord could not tell. In the outside world, you are a territory lord, and you can almost tell it from your body shape, but in the North Star, even if they have been deliberately releasing the brainwave power that only belongs to the territory lord, the average mid-level peak of the galaxy, because of his sensitive senses, he should be able to feel their strength quickly. But because Jia Yan is an outsider, even if there is a certain possibility, he has already sensed that something is wrong. But because of the outsider, I am afraid that he has not yet. I'm sure they are domain masters. After all, in the North Star, the possibility of meeting three territory lords casually, except for gatherings of territory lords or larger wars, is very small. No one would have thought that this could happen in normal times. Come out together when you meet so many domain owners. But the problem is that they are really the three major domain lords who came together. And he came from a distant place specifically for Jia Yan. Well, I've met a few seniors. Jia Yan quickly did not dare to show the slightest hostility anymore. Instead of being unruly, he quickly stood up respectfully and saluted again. Yes, Jia Yan is tough in front of the three domain masters. If he makes the other party unhappy, he will directly kill him. Jia Yan will have no place to reason. This is not a coward. If you have the ability, wait until I become the territory lord. Let's see if I can pinch your heads off one or two. Jia Yan chose to temporarily weaken his legs and expressed respect to them. Haha, I didn't expect that Mr. Jia Yan is still a wonderful person. Well, we don't want to embarrass you or anything. The purpose of our coming here is very simple, that is, we want to know whether your yin-yang dao combined technique can selling to our master's forces. The pangolin creature looked at each other with the two fellow territory lords beside him. Not only was there no displeasure in his eyes, but he was not disappointed because Jia Yan's demeanor was not as arrogant as expected. Instead, he felt a little excited. Such a flexible guy is what they most want to see. After all, in this case, they will have a headache if a real opponent comes. Because of that, things may not be done, but they will not know what to do. After all, Jia Yan at the moment, no matter what, is a hero-like existence in this war zone. If he is touched, I am afraid that it will chill the hearts of many people. Not to mention anything else, the two territorial lords in this war zone, who are famous for their iron-headed monsters, will not let go of their three picket members. This is why they want three people united together. Even if it is for the good of the future of the army, they are doing not very good things after all. Those two fellow territory lords have always enforced the law impartially in the army and have never looked down upon their behavior. It is these two who came to attack this time. They will definitely not give up if they are subordinates in the position. So if Jia Yan can take the initiative, they will also benefit. Do you want my onmyoji? Jia Yan was startled at first. He really didn't expect that his yin and yang dao hadn't really begun to promote and exert its strength. Just relying on its effect in the army, it actually attracted so many domain lords to come forward. The thoughts in my heart are spinning. For Jia Yan, the current matter is actually very simple, that is, whether he hands over the yin and yang dao or not. There was too much room for him in this matter. You can choose not to hand it over, or you can choose to hand it over, and the handing over can be done in a basic way that ordinary people on earth can learn. No one will think that a person can get a new cultivation path to this point. He did not hand over the entire copy. So how much help will it help you if you hand it over? Jia Yan was thinking about a lot of things, and the other party didn't want to force anything for a while. The three of them remained silent, silently looking at Jia Yan's appearance, and then waiting for a reply. Jia Yan pondered. To be honest, as he had thought before, at the moment, he was inclined to hand over nothing. Even if they joined forces in combat, he just wanted to teach it to his Jia Yan troops. This will bring more benefits to him, and he will also gain a lot of fame. When reputation reaches a certain level, even if he is not a territory lord, ordinary territory lords will not despise him, because no one the territory lord would dare to despise a commander who wears the title of God of War. If he dares to touch such a commander, it would be tantamount to making the entire force an enemy. The territory lord wants to help Jia Yan. I'm afraid it won't be one or two. But the problem is, people are forcing it on their faces. Moreover, Jia Yan has always refused to make friends, so there is a certain possibility that he will relent. By the way, if I hand over a simplified and inferior entry-level version for people on Earth, which has little effect on aliens, I might even get personal guidance from the three domain masters. Don't I want something like this? These are three domain masters. Suddenly, Jia Yan raised his head and glanced at the three domain master creatures. You know, he has been asking two senior territory lords to help him to see if there are any territory lord creatures who are willing to guide him on the way to promotion. And Jia Yan himself, in addition to asking these two, I am afraid he can only ask for help. The little devil princess, I believe she would not agree so easily. Moreover, it is unknown how many domain masters a child can gather to give him guidance based on his words. So there are three people in front of me, or they are all together. If they teach me together, and each of them demonstrates and communicates during the process, I am afraid it will be of great help to me. If so, it's not impossible. Jia Yan figured it out. He was on the verge of an arrow. Besides, there were many benefits, so he might as well just accept it. When Jia Yan was thinking this, both parties were silently waiting for time. Jia Yan thought about this for about half a day, and when 3 hours passed. Jia Yan, don't worry, I'll be here to support you. Anyone who wants to force you will have trouble with our grassland troops. Several old immortals, our grassland troops, are working hard on the front line. You are just trying to enjoy yourself in the rear. You actually come to our front line to persecute our front line army officials. If Jia Yan has something wrong with him, we will not wait. I will let you go. Two voices, like a little lady who had been bullied, came from outside the chariot, with great brainwave power in one breath. This sound can easily break through the sound insulation system of the tank, and when it reaches the inside of the tank, it has a strong ability to stun people. I am afraid it is not ordinary. Jia Yan was confused for a while. But then, his compound eyes flashed with a bright light. He knew that existences that could release such terrifying brainwave power were beyond the scope of the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. In other words, these were two territory lords. In the grassland, there are only a few existences with the power of domain lords. Jia Yan was still very familiar with this voice. If it wasn't the two army generals who were explaining the way to the territory lord to him earlier, who was it? There was a burst of ecstasy in his heart. It just so happened that my fighting power was insufficient, my overall momentum was inevitably suppressed, and I had no confidence in negotiating. These two seniors actually came. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2286. Moreover, they used the power of brain waves. In fact, they knew that Jia Yan would definitely not be in danger, but they acted like this. The reason must be to cheer him up. Well, the three seniors and the two generals love me so much. I didn't expect them to hear the news and come in person so soon. I want to go out to greet you too. Is that okay? Jia Yan stood up from the insect-only sofa and said respectfully to the three territory lord creatures who already looked ugly. This. Go ahead. I didn't expect the two generals to think so highly of you. Okay, let's go and greet them together. The three of us came uninvited and did not greet them. We must explain this matter properly, otherwise we will be in trouble. The three domain lord creatures stood up together with uncomfortable expressions, and then walked out of the chariot together with Jia Yan. Outside the chariot, there were two figures, riding in the chariot, rushing towards them like lightning. Haha, you two old friends, we originally wanted to come back after communicating with you, but the matter is not confidential, and we are here in a hurry, so we don't have the time. The pangolin creature seemed to be the main external person among the three domain lords. He took the initiative to speak to the two chariots. Snort. Before he finished speaking, two figures were already flying out from above the two chariots. They were faster than the chariots, and they were in front of them in the blink of an eye. Jia Yan, are you okay? Did these three guys force you to hand over anything? The two figures were naturally the giant tree creature with a branch on its head, and the octopus creature that Jia Yan had seen for the first time in real life. The giant tree creature was nothing, and the relationship between the two parties was already good, but this octopus creature was actually so kind to Jia Yan. It was obvious that he was quite sincere. Thank you to the two seniors for caring about me despite their busy schedules. I'm fine and I didn't have time to hand over anything to the three seniors here. Jia Yan smiled and said calmly. He knew that with the two territory lords behind him, the outcome of this matter would definitely be better. Whether he handed over the simplified version of Yin and Yang Dao or refused to hand it over, there would be no problems on the spot. Aren't you in time? It seems that these three guys really want something from you. Very good, very good. Back then you, the domain lords, drove our two brothers into this barren place. He came to the grassland to be a general, and now he comes to force our subordinates. It seems that he has bullied us both, right? That octopus creature is probably a hot-tempered guy. When talking to Jia Yan yesterday, Jia Yan could see that he had a little bit of a violent temper. Well, you two, we really don't have such thoughts. Besides, the three of us were minor players in what happened back then. How can we be blamed on the three of us? When the pangolin heard the octopus mention the past, he suddenly lost confidence and started to defend himself. Seeing Jia Yan being protected by two local generals and domain lords, the three domain lords all sighed helplessly. For these two people, they chose to come secretly because they had no choice but to wait until they got Jia Yan's things. After being forced out, they would no longer be afraid of the anger of the two territory lords. At the moment, it was just stuck. You two, with so many people watching, how about we go to the chariot over there to discuss it? I have prepared a lot of good things in my chariot. Let's treat it as an apology and entertain you all. Snort. At the invitation of the pangolin creature and the other two domain masters, the two domain masters half-heartedly gave Jia Yan a look and led him into the chariot. The soldiers from the outside world couldn't help but feel that it was eye-opening as they watched the exchanges from the territory lords and the way of doing things that only belonged to the domain lord creatures. But they didn't dare to say anything more. After all, this is the domain lord, and even 3 of them are pickets. They can even check things on the internet. Even if the soldiers of Jia Yan's army want to put this matter on the internet as their own bragging rights, I am afraid they will difficult, because pickets can trace what soldiers have said online. After all, soldiers are soldiers. Even if they are given the privilege of using the internet and entertainment, they are still restricted from disseminating intelligence. Otherwise, what should we do if there is a real accident? This negotiation in the chariot took less than half a day. Several times during this period, the soldiers outside the chariot misunderstood that a fight was about to start inside. Several times, the chariot was about to explode with huge energy, but soon it gradually subsided due to the intervention of certain forces, and then it was ready to explode again, and then it calmed down again. The sound of the quarrel was even transmitted to the outside world, and even the sound insulation of the chariot had no effect. It was vague enough for outsiders to hear what transactions they were arguing about. Originally, many soldiers would think that this matter should be for Lord Jia Yan to gain some benefits, but among the many voices, there was even a sigh from Jia Yan himself. This is worth pondering. Of course, no matter what is going on inside or what they are planning to do, for the soldiers outside, the most they can do is listen to the excitement and imagine what is going on inside, but it is impossible to understand the truth. In fact, after half a day, when the chariot door opened, the 2 territory lord generals who hurriedly rushed to the Jiayan troop position were a little happy to miss Shu when they went out. Okay, 3 of you, and Jia Yan, please don't send me away. If it's not a war emergency, the 2 of us can't leave the main force for a long time, otherwise we all want to stay here and stay with you until we get drunk. Today the conversation was really interesting. Haha, little friend Jia Yan, you are our lucky star. Well, let's not talk about anything else. After this war, you will be indispensable for your contribution. The 2 creatures, including the giant tree creature, actually looked a little floating. It was obvious that they all felt drunk, and the wine that could make even the domain lord get drunk must not be ordinary. But compared with the 2 people's cheerfulness, neither the 3 coming picket forces nor Jia Yan himself were so excited. This shouldn't have happened. The 3 territory lords belong to the hostile camp. If they make any concessions, it is natural that they will not look so good. I love. But in name, Jia Yan, who should belong to the same camp as at least the 2 domain masters, should not be like this. But he looked ugly. Yes, Jia Yan is really looking ugly. Because of this transaction, although he received help and encouragement from the 2 senior domain owners, Jia Yan discovered something after the whole process was completed. That is, the 2 seniors who seemed to be good old guys in front of them, who were so kind to Jia Yan, and even pretended to start a fight with the 3 major colleagues for his sake, actually had their own xiaojuju. Congratulations to the 2 officers. He sighed. Although he was helpless, these 2 people were still here to help him, so he couldn't be cold-faced. Come on, Jia Yan, the paths of these 3 territory lords are quite interesting. You are very lucky to have these 3 territory lords explain their paths in one go. I envy you. Old octopus, let's go. The loud-sounding giant tree senior urged the octopus creature, and then turned back to look at Jia Yan. Suddenly, a sound transmission reached Jia Yan's ears. Jia Yan, you don't have to worry about it. We intervened in your transaction and took the opportunity to make some profits. This is not what we really want. You are smart and can think it through. Senior Hui Bing, I understand that the benefits you want are actually deliberately binding me to you more deeply. This way, if the 3 seniors want to trick me in the future, they will have more worries. As long as you understand, let's go. Who? Due to the changing situation on the battlefield, the two generals couldn't stay any longer even though they arrived in time. After lingering here for a long time, they ended their confrontation with the three domain masters and left together. Okay, these two annoying guys have left, Jia Yan, we can fulfill our promise. The three territory lords watched the territory lord of the grassland leave, and then said to Jia Yan. Yes, three seniors. Jia Yan nodded. A group of 4 people, under the gaze of the surrounding soldiers with big eyes and small eyes, entered the interior of the chariot, as if the two territory lord generals had never been here before. However, the situation was obviously different. They no longer had such a harsh attitude towards Jia Yan, and they even started talking and laughing. The arrival of the two generals must have played a role. Regarding this transaction, the soldiers were in an uproar, and they didn't know who was right. In short, there were a lot of speculations. Only the 4 major creatures who entered the chariot and the 2 domain master creatures who left knew that everyone was happy this time. Everyone, including Jia Yan, got what they wanted, and no one suffered a greater loss. Who is at a greater disadvantage? What they talked about at first did not put much pressure on Jia Yan, but there was only a slight possibility of oppression. When the 2 generals arrived, it was like having an outside help for Jia Yan, and the 2 sides became equal. The central argument of this transaction is what Jia Yan will gain after handing over his basics of Onmyedo and the more critical joint tactics. Originally it was just a transaction between Jia Yan and the 3 major domain lords, but because of the arrival of the 2 domain lords, they interfered and became a party with interests. Jia Yan understands that if the 2 senior domain lords do not become interested parties, I am afraid that even if they help Jia Yan this time, if the 3 domain lords want to regret it in the future, they cannot always find 2 generals. Lord. Ever since, Jia Yan also understood the reason why the 2 domain masters helped. Moreover, the conditions they proposed were not just for themselves. Because the negotiation proposed by the 2 territory lords is, the 3 territory lords will help the grassland battle, and at least there will be a big victory. You know, in the Battle of the Grassland, the 2 domain masters dealt with the 4 enemy domain lords. Among them, the giant tree domain master was a defensive domain master and played a decisive role, which barely resisted the enemy's attack. But they were on the verge of collapse early in the morning. If they made mistakes in a few more battles, I'm afraid they would both be injured or even die. So this time, when the 3 territorial lords of the picket troops coming from outside the territory arrived in person, how could they give up such a good opportunity? They must catch them and prevent them from running away. If there are 3 territory lords to help, then in this battle, the comparison between the human territory lords on both sides will become 5 versus 4, and the grassland army will win with the number of territory lords. But the problem is that the advantage of 5 versus 4 is true. It is even possible to kill 2 of the 4 enemy domain lords, but it is impossible to kill them directly. This involves the progress of the war. The war at this time has not yet reached the level where the forces that besiege the master must go all out. Otherwise, the overall strength of each force will be similar to that of the master. Each of them, if they all send as many territory lords as possible, then the number of territory lords that the master's forces will face may not be as simple as 1 to 2, but maybe 1 to 5, or even 1 to 10. Of course, there are other enemies further away in their respective forces. Going all out will always only exist in ideals, but now that they are not doing their best, it is also a very practical problem. What if the grassland troops had a great victory and wiped out all the enemy territory lords? That would be a big problem. I am afraid that the 2 major forces will use this as an excuse to massively increase their troops, and more domain lords will come. You know, they cannot fully increase the combat level, but for a mere grassland war zone, 7 will come. 8 territory lords are not difficult at all. And this is also the key reason why within the master's power, There are obviously many territory lord reserves, but there is no increase in troops in each war zone. It's not that the three senior domain owners don't want to help. The problem is that they can't destroy this concept at all. Therefore, the final result of the negotiation with Shiyuan was to come to this battlefield to participate in the battle in a personal name. At most, 1 or 2 domain owners would be killed, and the grassland battlefield would be evenly matched, or our side become a little more advantageous. The 2 generals and domain lords actually wanted nothing more than this. If the enemy territory lords were reduced by 1 or 2, their lives would be safe. If all the enemy troops are wiped out, I'm afraid they won't want to do that, because if the next 7 or 8 domain lords come, they will all be crushed by them, and the grassland war zone will be destroyed in an instant, and they don't want to do that. Jia Yan, we agreed to the request of those 2 people. So what you want is for those minerals and the 3 of us to explain to you some insights on promotion. Are you sure you don't need the others? Inside the chariot, the 3 domain lords were still surprised by Jia Yan. I originally thought that this creature at the peak of the middle level of the galaxy would make more excessive demands and even ask for something more expensive after he had a backer. High-speed text hand typing chapter list of rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky.